Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hello there from Woburn, England. How are you all? Welcome to the final What Bitcoin Did podcast of the year. I'm on a final break. I'm having a few days off with my kids before we get into 2020. But what an incredible year. I did the calculations the other day. I think it's 92 flights. I've been to 18 countries, nearly 2.5 million downloads of the podcast. So many amazing interviews with so many smart people, so many weird situations. You know, when I ended up in Taiwan in a hotel room interviewing the most senior defector from North Korea with security guards outside, or when I found myself in the capital of El Salvador. Just so many weird things, so many interesting experiences. It's been an amazing year. God, I'm grateful to so many people. Let me do some thanks first. Sorry, I know you just want to get onto the show, but let me say thanks to a few people. Firstly, to my sponsors. I could not do this without you. Thank you for an amazing year. Jesse and Kraken, Zach and Flory at BlockFi, and Carl and Larry at DropBit. They're my long-term main sponsors, but all my sponsors, thank you so much. Everyone who sponsored the show this year. To all my guests who've given me their time, everyone who's listened, reviewed, shared, or sent feedback, and even the trolls. I love you too. An amazing year. I thank you so much. Anyway, welcome to the final What Bitcoin Did podcast of the year, which is brought to you by Kraken, the best place to buy and sell Bitcoin. I'm your host, Peter McCormack, and today I've got an interview with Matt Odell to round up Bitcoin for 2019. But before that, I do have a message from my show sponsors, and you know what I'm going to say. Give them a listen. They've supported the show all year. Just check them out. Go and visit their websites. Go and download their apps. Just check them out, because I literally could not make this show without them. So first up was my new sponsor for December, Scott Offord, and his company Crypto Mining Tools. They're also going to be sponsoring the podcast in May before the halving. Definitely go check them out. Scott is a Bitcoin mining consultant, and I want you to go and check out his Bitcoin mining profitability calculator. It's available at cryptomining.tools. Enter your estimated uptime to get more realistic profit projections. It also includes the impact of the Bitcoin block reward halving, and if you're wondering which miner is the most efficient or has the best chance of breaking even, you should try out their interactive hardware comparison chart as well. As an ASIC mining equipment broker, Scott helps you make data-backed business decisions. He can help you find hosting or raw power and land to get your miners up and hashing. If you want to find out more, contact Scott on Telegram or Twitter at OffordScott, which is OFFORDSCOTT, or visit cryptomining.tools, which is CRYPTOMINING.TOOLS. Next up, we also have DropBit, the best mobile wallet in the business. Absolutely love these guys. They've absolutely smashed it in 2019. When I first started working with them, they were like, Pete, we have got the Venmo of Bitcoin. I didn't know what the hell Venmo was because I'm British and we don't have it. But anyway, I checked it out. And yes, it was pretty cool. They had one of the easiest ways to send and receive Bitcoin. And you could do it via text as well, which was pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. Since then, they've added the ability to tweet Bitcoin. They've added support for Lightning. They've added support for Best32 addresses. And they closed the year out by adding the ability to buy Bitcoin directly in the app. A massive year. Can't wait to continue working with them in 2020 because they've got so much more cool shit coming. Go and check them out. It's available for the iPhone and Android. Just head over to dropbit.app, which is DROPBIT.app. And also Wire. This is their final sponsorship. Thanks, Dunny. Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate you sponsoring the show. Love this dude. Right, do me a favor. Go and check out Wire. Do it. Come on, go and do it now. Go and check out Wire. They've supported the show for the last 3 months. I want those guys to smash it. Wire have been helping companies across the space offer Bitcoin onboarding. Doesn't matter if you're a solo developer or if you've got a big, badass team. If you are looking to simplify user onboarding and offer your users a fast and easy way to purchase Bitcoin, then you need to talk to Wire. Since 2013, they've taken care of all the heavy lifting, all those really fucking annoying things such as compliance, payments and liquidity, so you can focus on building your core offering. Your idea could be the next killer app, so do not let those regulators kill it. Come on, do it for me. Go and check out Wire. Let's send them out on a bang. Go and create a developer account or reach out to Wire at sendwire.com, which is SENDWYRE.com. Okay, so on to the show, the final show of the year, and I have Matt Odell. Matt is the co-host of Marty's Tales from the Crypt and the Rabbit Hole Recap podcast, and he's just one of my favorite people in Bitcoin. He's also now a friend and someone I regularly turn to for advice. I'm always picking his brain because he's smart, he's a great thinker, and really I just always like talking to him. So last year we did a roundup of 2018 and looking ahead to 2019. That was with Matt and Neil Woodfine, and I was keen to do it with Matt again. And as I was in the States just before Christmas, I took a final flight to New York, sat down with Matt, we got stuck into some lovely whiskey and chatted about Bitcoin for nearly 3 hours. It's a beast of a show. Matt's mainly right about everything. I'm mainly asking stupid questions, so probably exactly what you expect of a show from me. So we get into the predictions from last year. We talk about what we got right, what we got wrong, what we expect to see in 2020, stacking sats, and some of our favorite Bitcoin companies. I love this one. If you've got any questions about the show, do reach out to me. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. And yeah, that's it. I'm done for the year. I've not got really any of my plans set up for next year. All I know is I want to make video. I'm starting to look at the ideas for creating video. So that should be cool. Anyway, have a great new year. Have a great 2020. Love you all. Speak to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye. So 1 year on, man, we did a show this time last year. You, me, Neil. A review of the year. You, like the diligent professional, went back and listened to it. I didn't.
You didn't listen to it before this?
Nope. I've been traveling around the world, man.
What were you thinking, man? You were just on a plane. You could easily listen to it.
I was counting how many flights I'd done this year and how many miles I traveled.
I saw the number you put for fights on Twitter was definitely both an exaggeration, and you did not calculate it at all.
No, that was a joke. That was the joke in it. Everything else was real. It was 84 flights.
That's fucking impressive, man. You're hustling.
Yeah, tired, man. So I've got one more to go tomorrow, and I'll be back home, ready for Christmas.
That episode, everyone listening to this, I think you should go back and listen to it. And I'm not just saying that without any skin in the game. As Pete said, I did actually listen to it today. I thought it was a really good listen. It's pretty crazy looking back. I think I got most things right.
Okay. What did you say?
I did say number was going to go up.
And it did?
So I had that, but I always say that. So I shouldn't get that much credit for that. Everything else, I think, beat my expectations.
Okay.
Except I had some anti-ETH stuff in there that didn't quite meet my expectations.
We're going to talk about ETH.
Well, we're talking about it right now, but I just, I thought they were going to have a bad year. They did have a bad year. I just overestimated. The one thing I got wrong was I overestimated the POS, the proof of stake hype. I still think it's going to happen. I just thought it was going to happen too quickly, basically. I mean, and that's what you see right now with like all the people on Twitter shilling Tezos and shit.
Yeah, baking their tizzies.
Yeah, I when I listened back, I said that one of the VC chains, like Tezos or one of the other ones, were gonna flip an ETH. So I was just feeling really bold. Like I don't know what I was thinking there. It wasn't even close. But I think that was the only prediction I got wrong. But what's more crazy to me were the things I wasn't even really thinking about. So stuff like right now, I would say BTC Pay is the most important project we have in the space.
Okay.
It wasn't mentioned once in the podcast.
Okay.
Right? It's interesting thinking about stuff like that, right? Like, so you actually asked me what my predictions were and all this other stuff, but really the thing you should take away from that is BTC Pay was never mentioned. That's pretty fucking crazy to me, because right now I would unequivocally say that it is the most important project we have in the space.
Right. So there's a few things to go through here. This is where I sound terrible, but I didn't make any predictions, right? I just sat and asked you questions.
No, you were a proper interviewer. You didn't. You were just coming into your Bitcoin ways.
Yeah.
It was like probably.
I wasn't fully Bitcoin then.
It was your intro. You admitted on the podcast that you only owned Bitcoin and Monero.
Yes.
Which to me is like basically fully Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It was like your intro to, becoming a proper Bitcoiner podcast. Like it was the start of the whole year of you really angering all the shitcoiners. It was that podcast. That podcast was the beginning of it, right?
Well, you've been relevant at a few points along that journey, and you know that. That's why you're saying it.
There you go. That's why I got a smile on my face.
No, it was after the Ryzen one. I think that was in March, after the Lightning special, that it went full Bitcoin only.
But if you listen to that episode,
I hate
if you listen to that episode, it was before the Ryzen one. It was that episode.
Yeah,
you could hear it. You could hear it.
I felt it coming anyway, and it's been good for many reasons. The focus is good. It's really helped to just focus on one thing. The bad, probably going to Bitcoin getting to the point where I'm like, right, I must fucking attack everything else and fight everyone. And you don't need to do that all the time.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. And that's where it went too far. And now I'm coming to Christmas or Zen like. I'm just back to focus on Bitcoin.
That's what you need to have the Bitcoin Zen.
Just Bitcoin Zen.
And that's what I said in the episode. You know, you didn't. That's why you should have re-listened to it. You didn't really take it to heart fully enough.
I hate listening back to shows.
Is that the shitcoins are no threat to Bitcoin? They're a net benefit to Bitcoin. They are a threat to the actual users who lose money speculating on them. Right? They're not the actual system, the protocol, Bitcoin. Network Bitcoin doesn't give a shit. It doesn't. There's no threat there, and if anything, in my opinion, I think it actually benefits Bitcoin. And I said this last year too. Is that, you know, the altcoin casino is one of the main use cases of Bitcoin. It will continue to be one of the main use cases of Bitcoin because people like to gamble.
Do you think if there was no altcoins, do you think Bitcoin price now would be higher or lower?
I think there was never a scenario that there would be no altcoins, so that's like a trap question.
Yeah. But like Mt. Gox was just trading Bitcoin, right?
The meme for a long time was Litecoin was pumping on Mt. Gox adding Litecoin within 2 weeks.
Right.
And that happened for months, and then Mt. Gox went under. So I remember I was trolling Charlie when he became CTO of Coinbase and got Litecoin added and pumped the shit out of Litecoin. Before he got it added, I was trolling him like, oh yeah, Coinbase is going to add it in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, so they were Bitcoin only, but just out of incompetence. Like, I think they would have happily been a shitcoin casino if they could have been, right?
But the point being, people were happy to trade Bitcoin only on it.
Yeah, on Mt. Gox, right. But they were trading the shitcoins elsewhere at the time. Mt. Gox was like one of the main on-ramps, but they were then moving their Bitcoin. And I mean, that's where I think we were headed, right? I think, like, especially in America and stuff, when you look at the regulated exchanges, and I think that's where me and Neil talked about this last year as well, if you had re-listened, is that we're moving towards a world where there's a lot more Bitcoin-only companies. And I think if you're a regulated company, like in America, the money to be made is being the best Bitcoin on-off ramp you can be, and then leave the shitcoin casinos to Binance's of the world. Leave them to the new Poloniex powered by Justin Sun, right? Where they remove KYC and they have no regulations, you know, and they just say, fuck you. And those shitcoin casinos will come and go because they'll get too big and then the regulations will hit them. But if you create like a solid Bitcoin platform to just come on, like, don't be greedy. You get your 2%, you know? You follow all the rules, and because they can't compete, like Coinbase can never be the shitcoin casino that Binance could be, or that Polo could be, you know.
Well, because Brian Karnak like sees it as well.
Yeah, but not even that. Like, they have like the full weight of the U.S. government like on top of them, right? Like, they can't do that shit.
It's funny you say that. Bitcoin only companies. So I thought I'd quickly write down my predictions. The first one I put is more Bitcoin only.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go through it.
But we predicted that correctly last year.
Is that what we talked about? Because I didn't listen to the show.
No, yeah, that was one thing that we talked about heavily. Is that, I mean, and Neil.
It hasn't happened that much though.
Neil took it farther than me.
Yeah,
when Neil said Bitcoin only, Neil meant, this is Neil Woodfine, by the way. I think he's on Twitter. He's at Neil Woodfine.
And Woodfine.
And Woodfine, yeah.
Yeah.
He predicted more. When he said Bitcoin only companies, he meant no fiat, right? But we've seen companies slowly move to a more Bitcoin only model. If not more the startups than anything, like the new companies. There's been a renewed interest in going the Bitcoin only route. You know, stuff like River Financial just came out. Spark Swap, right? Like Zap's coming out, Olympus. But at the same time, CoinFloor in UK, they're one of the oldest ones, one of the oldest exchanges that no one uses. And they just switched to Bitcoin only.
Didn't they do like $2 million trading on the day they announced?
Maybe some whale decided that he wanted to give them props. But one of the things to note with them is they're, according to Nick Carter, they're the only exchange that still does proof of reserves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but they're tiny, so.
And no one cares, so.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go through it. Okay.
The problem is the people that care about proof of reserves don't trade or keep money on custodial exchanges, so it doesn't fucking matter.
All right, let's go through it. You obviously remember what we talked about. Okay. I actually think it's been a great year for Bitcoin. I think I tweeted about it the other day because
it's very easy to feel a little bit miserable at times because Twitter is such a nasty, horrible place, and everyone's really upset all the time. And I think mainly that is the pollution coming in from the shitcoiners who are depressed that there's nothing to trade. They've got no one to offload their bags to. They're all hoping for like this, we've had this alt season thing all year. But the problem is for that to work, they've got to have people to trade against. And all the people trading are traders, like who've been trading for a long time. So they've got no one to trade against. And I think they are bringing a lot of the negativity in and a lot of the negative discourse.
I mean, there's been 2 years, basically, of alt season hoping. I don't think alt season is a thing. I think there was an ETH pump that led to a bunch of other shitcoins pumping afterwards because there was a bunch of easy money. And these guys all thought they were geniuses, so they moved them into that easy money, so-called easy money, what they thought was easy money, to amplify it. But this year has been weird because it's been extremely bullish for Bitcoin, but it's been particularly devastating to the other chains, right? So especially ETH. And when you have that happen at the same time, it's a really weird dichotomy where you have the Bitcoiners are happy, right? And the ETH stakeholders aren't happy. And when people are losing money, they tend to get way more salty, right? And everything gets way more toxic. But also on the same side with Bitcoin, we saw this in 2015. The real devastation isn't the 20,000 to 3,500. You can be the strongest hodler ever during that period. The hard part is when we bounce, go to 14K, and then come back down. That's when your morale really gets fucking hit, right? Because Moon was coming back. We were coming back, And that same exact thing happened in 2015, but it was the 600. And I fell for it both times. Like I'm not, a savant. Like I fell for it both times. I should have known better, Fortunately, I stayed humble. I stacked sats, but I did fall for it mentally, right? I was like, oh, this recovery is quicker than the last one, right? This time is different. With ETH, it was extra bad because they didn't really pump that much with Bitcoin. And then they shed even more value against Bitcoin on that back down. So you have all that combined, and like people end up getting really salty on Twitter.
But it's been a great year.
Yeah, it's been. I was looking back. It's absolutely insane. Well, first of all, Neil gave me shit because he basically called me like someone who just shit posts on Twitter and has a podcast and doesn't really do anything for the space, right? So since then, because of Neil, I'll give him credit, I launched Final Message. We launched Bitcoin Citadel workshops. I really helped the Bottle Pay team out. We had like a great fucking run before we had to close down. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that.
And I've been with Give Bitcoin, helping them with their education effort. So it's been for me, it's been a huge year. I started my first Lightning node. I sent a Lightning payment to Jack on Twitter, right in the middle of the bear market. We like formally signed Cash App as a sponsor. I don't know. The podcast has been great. Like people have been so good to us. For me, it's been an amazing year. And for Bitcoin, it's just been an extremely bullish year. Just watching Lightning grow. We've seen so many apps come out that didn't exist. As we were saying, like BTC Pay is matured to the point where it's an absolutely integral part of piece of software in Bitcoin, which is like fucking huge. The Lightning apps, we got apps like Breeze Wallet, we have Phoenix Wallet, we have your sponsor Dropbit.
The best Bitcoin wallet in the world.
There you go. Well, it is a good Bitcoin wallet. We've come a long way. This is a big year.
And I can echo a lot of that. I think it's been a great year for Bitcoin. Everything you've said. I think Lightning has really come on to the point where, like I was very critical of Lightning at the start of the year because I always come from it as, the dumbass UX guy. If I can't figure out how to use this, I don't care. I'm not gonna go into the weeds like you. I want to use it like a very fresh retail user. But I think Lightning's come on, and as your podcast has grown, mine's grown, lots of shows, lots of amazing stuff. It's been a really fucking great year. It's funny, though, because I think I wonder what it is. I wonder if some people are a bit negative because they're Bitcoiners and they've badly traded the year. I wonder if they've badly traded the year and they're feeling a bit like, crap, I should have sold at 14, or they sold it, I don't know, at the bottom and then saw it go to 14. You know how you can misplay the market? I wonder if some of that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of people that are salty on Twitter are salty because they traded when they shouldn't have, or they just regret paper gains that they didn't take advantage of. This is a financial world that we have chosen to be a part of, and money does drive it, right? So if you do lose money, most people do end up getting salty because of that. It's absolutely without a doubt. Like that's what we had in the last bear market. That's what we'll have in the next bear market. As far as UX goes,
Yeah, we'll be like, it's fucking bullshit. Bitcoin's at 30 grand.
Yeah, and that's how I feel right now. I mean, to me, $7,000 is moon math.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I first got into Bitcoin, I was calculating like, okay, in this ridiculous scenario, we might hit 10K. The people arguing whether stock to flow is right because it's predicting $100,000 Bitcoin. I will not get into that debate because fuck models. I don't give a shit. But 10,000 was my 100,000. That prediction was about the same craziness to me, right? So it's important to take a step back and realize like how much progress has been made. It's really easy to discount that pace of progress, but we've moved like extremely quickly. There's been a lot of fucking progress, and I just think everything is like really positive. As for the UX, I just want to go back to the talk about the UX. The biggest UX challenge for Bitcoin is regulatory. It is 100% an issue with regulations. I mean, the perfect example is Bottle Pay, right? Like Bottle Pay made a fantastic. Disclosure, I was like part of that team. I had like a small equity stake there. I gave them a lot of advice. I helped them out a lot. And I grew to love them. They're a great team. They built a great product that was super easy to use, right? And the European Union passed a regulation that made it so that they couldn't operate their business without adding a ton of risk to their users through KYC and also a bunch of friction, to be frank, right? Like who wants to... The whole ease of sending Lightning payments doesn't become easy if you have to like upload your selfie and a passport photo, right? Like that, it destroys that. So, part of the reason we don't have that Venmo-like functionality, I think the main part is because of regulations, and people have to understand that. Like Bitcoin is a sovereign money, it's independent, and we're gonna have those UX challenges. But it goes hand in hand with the value prop. Like Bitcoin wouldn't be valuable if we didn't have those UX challenges because regulators are fighting us.
I was really sad about Bottle Pay, actually. I really liked it.
I'm like broken inside a little bit, I have to admit.
So they leveled up from what Tipping.me did. And I like Tipping.me. I think Tipping.me was great. And then when Bottle Pay came out, I was like, this is really, really fucking cool. And at the end of each month, like I would go in and I'd been sent like 100,000, 200,000 sats and just load it into my wallet. And I thought it was really cool. And when I heard about it, I didn't look into it. You'll know more than me, but wasn't there any opportunity just to move to another jurisdiction?
That's a personal decision.
Okay.
They did have families. Their asses were on the line. My ass was not on the line. This is why I have not launched a company like that.
Yeah.
Because I live in New York, and we can thank our favorite Ripple board member, Ben Lawsky, for making my life as hard as possible in terms of trying to contribute back to Bitcoin in some kind of sizable fashion.
It was a shame though, because they did such a good job on UX as well.
So they made a decision that they weren't going to try and run from this law. They were worried that that EU customers would be cut off anyway, and they didn't want to be in a situation. They were a young company, they had raised money. They had shareholders now. They didn't want to be in the situation where they were going to shotgun KYC on people. Because I respect the shit out of that. Like I'm so proud of them because that is like literally the worst move you can make in Bitcoin. Like if you let people onto your platform and you don't require the KYC, but then when it comes time to withdraw, you have to KYC them, that's messed up. And the way they wrote AMLD5, this European regulation, is very common from what we've come to expect in that they wrote it very vague, right? So we're not even sure, or their lawyers aren't even sure if it applies. And I'm not trying to FUD here. I'm a huge Bitcoiner. We're not sure if it applies to non-custodial wallets, and especially non-custodial Lightning wallets that provide liquidity. So basically with Lightning, you have like this abacus system where you're sending Bitcoin and you have these channels and Bitcoin's moving back and forth. But to receive, you need someone to send you some inbound liquidity. And that process of sending the inbound liquidity, which is essential to the UX for these platforms, whether you're custodial or not custodial, could be applicable under AMLD5. So they weren't going to rewrite their whole, because the idea was to pivot to that. That was the idea. And it basically became clear that they could pivot to that whole concept, and then you're screwed anyway. You know, you still have to shotgun KYC. You never know when it's going to happen. I mean, we might as well just give the listeners a disclaimer that every once in a while a kid might jump upstairs, and we're not gonna cut it.
I wonder if we'd have noticed it without the headphones.
Are you noticing it? Yeah, we would have noticed it.
Right. Okay. Fuck that guy.
He's a little child. We'll get him onto Bitcoin.
Oh, he's an actual child.
Yeah, I'm gonna get him onto Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
We'll get him. We'll get him.
All right. Well, listen. Like I say, I think it's been an amazing year, and the starting place I want to talk about is more Bitcoin-only companies and the move to Bitcoin. I mean, I started the trend by going Bitcoin-only with the podcast, and everyone followed.
Yeah, clearly. It was all you, Pete.
That was your fault, man. Remember that conversation? My little mentor, Matt. Matt, I'm thinking of going Bitcoin-only. You're like, fucking do it.
Just the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah. So, but that trend of more Bitcoin-only companies starting, companies moving to Bitcoin-only. I've spoke to a couple of companies who have support for certain altcoins, who've thought about going Bitcoin-only. I like that trend. I think it's an important trend. I'd like to see more of that next year. And I like companies, I'd like to add into that, I like the earn Bitcoin companies. I like Lolly. I like Fold.
Fold is great.
I think they're great. And so I would like for next year to see more companies doing this, and I see that's going to be a trend where people are either feel they want to get ahead of the curve and say they did it, or will feel the pressure to go Bitcoin only. Now, I don't expect that to be the exchanges, but I do expect to see a lot more Bitcoin only companies.
Yeah, I mean both. I mean Fold and Lolly go with our earlier. The earlier topic where they were startups, they're brand new startups. Well, actually, Fold is an older company, but Lolly was brand new, and they just came in as Bitcoin only, right? And you start to wonder, like, how much of their viral effect would be diminished if they moved, right? If they added, let's just say they added Ethereum, that could be interesting. I don't know, did Fold ever have any altcoin support? I know they had Roger as an investor, and they told him to go fuck himself, which was awesome.
Did he? Was that the company where he tried to buy it? And I'll try to get them to put Bitcoin Cash in.
He was an investor, and he tried to get them to put Bitcoin Cash in and remove Lightning. They did LN Pizza.
Yeah.
And they got into a huge tiff with him over LN Pizza, and they told him to go fuck himself. So I think they offered him an out. I don't know if he took the out or not.
Will Reeves is a fucking solid guy.
Will is awesome. He
got me the Uber copter.
Oh, there you go. How was that? I always wanted to take one of those.
Weird. Have you seen it?
I was like, next bull run, I'll see one.
So it wasn't what I expected. So I was down on Broadway, had a meeting with catch up with BlockFi, and came outside to book an Uber back to JFK. And one of the options was a Uber copter. I was like, what the fuck? You can get a helicopter now.
It's not that expensive.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like, it's $70 to go up to JFK from there, or $80. No. In
regular Uber, and it's like $250 for the helicopter. That's not bad. For a helicopter, that's cheap, right?
Well, I know, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, I don't like flying at the best of times. Do I want to go in a helicopter? Do I want to pay more to do something I don't want to Actually, I wish I'd have done it. That trip to JFK was nearly 2 hours.
That's how you know when it's an $80 ride. You know that's going to happen.
But Will messaged me. He said, "Look, I'll pay for it next time. Fold will pay for it. Just do it." He was like, "I don't want anything in return. I'll just pay for it." I was like, "Cool, but I'll do a tweet anyway." So next time I come in, I booked it in, and I didn't really need it because it takes you to the south of Manhattan.
Okay.
And then
Wait, so do you have to take it? Oh, you took it from the airport to Manhattan.
Yeah, so you get an Uber.
There's multiple ports, aren't there, in Manhattan?
I don't know.
It to?
I have no idea. All I know is I got an Uber to the helipad,
and then you took a long ass Uber ride.
Yeah, I took it just to try it out, right? But the most disappointing thing of it all was in my head, I'd pictured this single person helipod that turns up, just picks an individual up and takes you. I don't know why I thought that. And
That's
I turned
ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but it's because in your head in the future, all the films you've seen.
Right.
In your head, you're like, this little pod's going to pick me up.
So how many people were in your helicopter?
It's seats for 6, but 5 were in it.
Did you show them Bitcoin?
No, everyone was just at the window taking photos, laughing at how ridiculous this was. That they're in an Ubercopter. Like, that's what it was.
That's why everyone was taking it.
Yeah, it's my first time in a helicopter. Have you been in a helicopter?
Yes, it's scary as fuck.
It's fucking scary. Yeah. Like, the whole time I was like, with the plane, I'm like, well, if the engine cuts out, it can land in the Hudson. I've seen them do it. I saw Sully do that. You can land in the Hudson, or you can coast down. You got a chance, right? With a helicopter, if the rotors are fucked, it's just going to drop flat and you're dead.
Yeah, it's super dangerous.
Yeah, I don't want that shit. Yeah. So I don't think I'll ever get in one again. There's too many accidents with them. I'm glad I tried it that time. Is it worth it? I mean,
yes.
What
during a bull market, it's worth it.
Yeah, but I think of it the other way. Imagine I had a.
Cars are dangerous too, though.
I know. Well, not in the traffic from Manhattan to JFK.
Yeah, you probably won't die.
So I imagine if someone said, "Oh, your Uber's going to be like 50 minutes to JFK, but I'll give you $160 to take the Uber that's going to take 2 hours." I'll take that. I'll just sit on my phone on Twitter. So the opportunity cost isn't worth it. I imagine if you're some rich dude and just wants to go back and forth, fine, but it's not worth the extra cost to crap your pants for the whole experience.
I mean, I didn't crap my pants, I thought I might die. I thought there was an opportunity there for
that. But I hate flying, which is ridiculous. I haven't done 84 flights this year, but I hate it. I actually have, I should show you my phones. You know Stacey Herbert?
Yes.
Me and her have each other on like Telegram speed dial for turbulence.
I saw that on Twitter.
We like regularly get in touch, like calm each other
cute.
down. Yeah, because and it's funny, we were always like sharing articles about like the Boeing 737 Max is like a death machine, and
it's not though.
I mean, 2 crashed.
But the thing is, cars are way more dangerous. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
but you have to realize cars are way more dangerous. We just take that for granted.
Yeah, most of the time I'm driving. Like if they let me fly the plane, I'll feel safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let me fly them.
I actually have the opposite. It's like the one time where I'm like, Jesus, hold the wheel. Like I don't have that. I lose my control of the situation, right? And I've embraced it. I guess I've flown enough.
Kind of joking.
But it is strange to me that it is one of the few times where I do have zero control. It's not don't trust, verify. It's I'm trusting you with my fucking life, right? It's like the exact opposite.
Do you have plane rules? Do you have any like flying rules?
What do you mean?
Like airplanes you won't go on, airlines you won't fly with?
I don't fly on shit airlines. I just value my life too much.
So there's airline safe. This will show you how fucked up I am. There's like a website where you can look at the safety records of all the airlines. You can also look up the safety records of the specific planes. So, for example, I won't get on any Russian plane ever. But my dad told me that. My dad was an aircraft engineer.
Right.
He's like, just don't get on any Russian plane because their maintenance is terrible and they crash too much. So no Russian planes, no Aeroflot ever. I'm never flying that shit ever. I tend to stick with the likes of BA, Virgin, because they've had very low, if not no fatal crashes ever.
Well, they're also the 2 British companies.
Well, yeah.
Right?
So here,
you're just shilling your homeland.
Well, yeah, I do. Well, I do fly American a lot here. I'm now gold because internally I fly it a lot, and I've got a little bit more relaxed on my rules because of the amount of flights I've done.
Right.
Why the fuck are we talking about this?
I don't know. I want to go back to Fold. What's interesting about Fold is that they, as a company, were a spending Bitcoin company.
Yeah.
So you would go to Fold, you'd buy a gift card, and you can shop at anywhere you wanted to shop. They realized, I guess not that quickly, but they realized recently that the real money to be made is spending your fiat that you want to get rid of and accumulating Bitcoin, stacking sats on the side, right?
Which is a great idea.
And I think that is it is clearly the money-making move, right? Uh-huh. And I think at the same time, that is what will help propel us to new all-time highs because, it's almost like you're weaponizing the consumerist society that we live in, right? Uh-huh. Because like everyone's spending all this fucking money anyway. Imagine if they bought 5% of that worth of Bitcoin every time they purchase. That all of a sudden the demand side becomes crazy. And we have Christmas coming up. Like if you're shilling your family Bitcoin, shill lightly. It's a high risk investment. Be careful about it. But if you're shilling them lolly or fold, it's the easiest shill in the world.
Uh-huh.
You're already shopping. You might as well get 6% in the best money we've ever had, right?
Well, it's like Andreas always says. It's like he says, don't buy Bitcoin, earn it.
Yeah, but that was always like a shallow bullshit, in my opinion.
No, I like that. I tell you why. Because the stuff, it's almost like if you put all the stuff. Thank you for the bourbon. Matt's pouring me a lovely bourbon.
This
is fantastic.
Uncle Zach gifted this to us.
Thank you, Uncle Zach. Appreciate this.
Great dude. He's Uncle Zach on Twitter. Follow him.
Nice. So if I had a separate wallet for all my different Bitcoin, the stuff I earn, I'm never going to spend that. It's just like, I got this shit for free, almost. But if you think of all those different credit cards, gift cards, loyalty points, if every one of them converted to Bitcoin and just gave you cashback sats every time, I think I would take that every single time, without doubt. And I would almost be more inclined to be a little bit more loyal as a Bitcoiner. Like, I don't know, if American Airlines gave me some kind of sats back, I would be definitely thinking, right, I'm going to book with American.
So, well, first of all, I think I was the first person to say sats back, and I was like kind of salty about it because I met the freak who listened to me say it on the podcast, and he has satsback.com.
Damn.
And I didn't get it in time. So shout out Michael Hawaii for taking that from me.
What up, Michael?
You can go fuck yourself. You're a great dude, but you got me on that one.
You owe that to Matt. I think you should give it back to Matt.
Yeah, I think his whole earning thing he's been saying for a long fucking time, and people don't get paid in Bitcoin. The majority of people, some people do. Power to you. You know, Neil talked about it on a year ago. He talked about getting paid in Bitcoin because he did, but most people don't.
Russell tried.
Yeah, so this is a different earning, right? This is, you're earning out of your own volition. You can also similarly earn in America, at least, because Cash App has direct deposits. So you can just get direct deposits into your Cash App, and then your boss doesn't have to care about Bitcoin. You can just convert whatever amount of your salary into Bitcoin. That makes sense to me. The third thing I want to touch on is that Andreas had no Bitcoin when 2017 happened. We had to donate Bitcoin to him, okay? So that strategy was clearly not an effective strategy because he was only earning Bitcoin, and then when the bear market happened, he had no Bitcoin. He had no money, so he had to spend his Bitcoin at the lowest price possible, right? But if you have a fiat reservoir, when that happens, you're able to weather that storm. You don't have to dip into your Bitcoin, right? So there is some trade-offs there if you're only 100% earning Bitcoin. But like by all means, like if that's the only, if you have a shitty currency, you're in one of these countries that you have a shitty currency, or you're working internationally and that's the only way you can get paid, then absolutely, get paid in Bitcoin. But then in that case, I was in Riga. I hosted a trading panel in Hodl because I guess they just thought it'd be ironic if the guy who was anti-trading hosted the trading panel, so I hosted that.
But are you really anti-trading?
I think the 99% of people will lose more money on trading.
That's true.
Than if they didn't trade. So yes.
But we need markets.
Oh yeah, I'm completely fine with people trading. I just think 99% of people will lose money trading, and I've learned that I will only lose money trading.
Yeah, me too. So interestingly, this year, every month I've owned more Bitcoin than the previous month because I've stopped trading.
Right, exactly.
Every single month.
It's nice. Number just goes up, right?
Just
stack sats and the number just goes up.
Yeah.
But Whale Panda said something that was interesting. He was like, if you earn Bitcoin, you have to do the opposite. You have to stack fiat because you never know when that bear market's going to happen. And even he was saying, like, even if all your income is in Bitcoin, like you have to actually do the opposite because you have to basically dollar cost average into fiat to make sure that you have that reservoir. Because if you end up in Andreas's situation and all your money's in Bitcoin and the price goes down to 1/5 of what it was 6 months ago, you're basically guaranteed to sell the bottom to pay for rent, right?
Well, I do. So all the invoices I do in Bitcoin, which is probably half of my invoices, I convert 75% into fiat to run the podcast, pay for the travel, pay for my engineer,
right.
And I keep the other 25% in Bitcoin, and not once have I had to dip in it. The only way I ever lose Bitcoin is if when Jimmy Song convinces me to buy a hat of his in Bitcoin, or when I was out in like somewhere like Uruguay and we had dinner. Again, it's always Jimmy. Like he pays for dinner and I end up sending him stats for it, or when I give it away, because I give quite a bit away. But I've still, even with everything I've given away, every single month, if I check my spreadsheet, I've got more than the previous month because I stopped trading. Whereas then 2017, I was up and down, and then had this big peak. I'll tell you afterwards what it was, and then dropped down massively. and that most of that is because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with trading.
Right.
And I'm with you. Most people shouldn't trade.
No, yeah, you might have like a positive run. You're gonna lose it all. You're gonna like all those gains. You're gonna lose all those gains.
You're gonna leverage up.
It's just the name of the game. There's winners and losers. It's relatively zero sum. I'm never going to speak in absolutes, but it's relatively zero sum, and you got to be careful about it. And I think when you just have an asset like Bitcoin, which I do think, as much as the Udis of the world will want to tell me that that's irresponsible, I do think it's designed to pump forever. So I think if you think that and you think it'll be up in 10 years, why are you playing that game? You'll make way more money if you just dollar cost average and if you stack sats. I mean, look, this whole year everyone's been freaking out about the price every day, right?
No.
And here we sit.
I disagree.
2x. We sit 2x from last year. The point is that it's 100% gain from last year if you just sat. Right?
Yeah. You're right. I disagree that everyone's freaking out about price.
People do freak out about price.
People do.
You see it.
I
You see
disagree,
the
everyone.
moods. But you see the moods change. People have, because I don't check the price, right?
No, I don't. That's the
But
point.
when I open Twitter, I know when we've fallen.
Yeah, but
Do you know as well?
Yeah, but I don't care anymore. That's the point.
But you notice.
I do, but
it affects people.
But
It
I
affects
changed the
majority of
strategy.
people.
So my view was like you stack sats, and I've made a decision. I'm not selling any Bitcoin for 10 years. 3 halvings for 10 years, and even then I don't know what will happen. But I know I am not, unless for like some cataclysmic event, like I do something happens and the podcast dies. Whatever, I don't care. I'm not selling for 10 years. So I stopped checking price because it's a meaningless thing to do. It's either going to make me euphoric for no reason or depressed for no reason. So all I care about is the price in 10 years. I genuinely don't care about the price. Doesn't bother me.
I mean, the price matters, but that is the right philosophy to take.
Well, the price
the
matters,
daily
yeah.
price doesn't
But I don't
matter.
care because it's almost like, when it hit 14, it was during Bitcoin 2019 in San Fran. In my mind, I was like, should I be selling some here? Oh no, because it's going to go back over 20 now. This is when we hit 25.
Were you there for my live podcast?
Was I? Don't know.
On the top of at the end of the conference? I told everyone to market buy before we started recording, or like right in the beginning of us started recording. We were at like 30. It was the local top. It was the top of the year.
Did you give financial advice?
I will quote Pierre that Bitcoin is the only one we know is not a security. So it's definitely wasn't a securities violation.
Yeah.
We have that going for us.
That was a yes. But the point being is like, I could have sold at 14 because I was thinking about it, but I could have sold at 10 when it broke through 10 again. And I'm like, why am I trying to play this game? I never know a top and bottom. And I think there's like 3 people who know tops and bottoms. It's like Loom Dark, Crypto Cobain, and Alistair Milne. I think they're like the only 3 people I know who seem to get it right every time. There's no point playing that game.
There's no way they get it right all the time. It's
You know what I mean.
You have the appearance. They have the appearance of it, right? That's the most dangerous part, right? Because people think that they can then time the bottoms and the tops, and they can't. We had in the most recent run up in 2017, spring of 2017. Okay, the price ended up hitting 20K. At $900. Vinny Lingham had a piece about how he sold 95% of his Bitcoin. It went everywhere. Like the New York Times wrote it up. Paul Vigna wrote it up in Wall Street Journal. It was like all over the place. My dad said to me, Matt, it's been 4 years. You've broken all-time high. Like, you gonna sell some? I was like, no, fuck you. Then we hit like 2,400 and he brought my grandma into it. Your grandma thinks you should sell some, right? The worst move you can make, I personally think, after spending all this time and seeing the vision that is Bitcoin, the biggest regret of my life would be selling prematurely, right? Like I've come to this Zen point where like I'd rather go to 0 than be the Vinny. And sell at 1,200 and watch it go 20x, watch it go 100x from there. Like, and when do you get back in, right? Like, when do you decide you get back in? Because like we had Tone Vase telling people that we were going to hit 2,500 because of the hyperwave, right? Do you wait for the hyperwave, and then all of a sudden we go up to 14K, right? Like so, and then you buy at 12K, and then you panic sell at 8K when we come back down, and you're just losing money in every direction.
Exactly, and like if there is another run. Do you sell at 30 and then it goes to 80? Do you sell at 80? It goes to 1. You've got no idea. So there's like I say, I've put a point in time, 10 years. I'll be over 50, hopefully looking forward to Shit, I feel old. I'm looking forward to retirement. That sucks. You're like, what do I want? I want some there. So I just don't sell. Just stack. That's what we do.
That's what we do. Exactly.
The only other thing, if it does go up massively, stacking sats will be very different at 100k Bitcoin than stacking sats now. It'll be like, I don't know. It feels like it will be very different.
Well, when I got started, the number was 21 Bitcoin, right? So that's why we've moved to stacking sats, right? Like, because that's ridiculous. Like, that's fucking ridiculous telling people they should try and get to 21 Bitcoin.
6.15, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he likes this. I think that's even aggressive, right? Like, I think you just stack what you can afford to stack, and you don't overextend yourself. And I kind of think it's irresponsible to say 6.15, but I also love the meme, so I'm guilty of it sometimes. But I think you do what's ever in your risk profile to make sure that it is a long-term bet, like you said, right? Like, you don't want to be in that situation that Andreas was in, who was supposed to be like the Bitcoin wizard that knew everything about Bitcoin, where you're in a bear market and you have to sell the bottom.
Yeah.
Because that is probably the worst feeling, like short of deaths.
I had to sell a little bit at the bottom to pay tax bill.
Yeah, see, that's bad.
Yeah, so
That just feels
actually
bad.
it wasn't the bottom. I think it was like 6k.
Yeah, that's what they always say to justify it.
No, I think I can prove it.
You don't have to prove it. It's bad for OPSEC. I don't want you to do that.
I trust you. All right, so something else coming next year. I know we're meant to be reviewing this year, but we should talk about is the halving. I've been corrected to stop saying the halvening.
Well, we're torn on the issue. People go both ways. If you look at my tweets, I've gone both ways.
Okay. I think it's the halving.
I've recently switched to halving.
I think it sounds a little bit more professional.
Well, so halvening was a response to the flippening. Right? So Bitcoiners tend to, I think, adopt the attacks way too much. But that was one of the attacks that was adopted, and we switched to halvening. Like, oh, you guys are going to talk about the flippening. We're going to talk about the fucking halvening.
Well, we know mine is like a nuanced intellectual show, so I'm glad we're covering this important topic of halving.
The halving isn't priced in. We discussed this on the last episode a year ago. Okay, so these people are telling us the halving was priced in at 3,800, and I was arguing it at 14,000, and now I'm arguing it at $7,000. So which fucking price was it priced in at? Right, like it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And if you look at it, like, yes, the efficient market hypothesis, which says that if there's an idea, if there's information that people know, such as the supply halves, it gets priced into the market because all the actors in the market are acting on that knowledge. Absolutely, I don't discredit that. But the thing is, we don't have that many people that are into Bitcoin, right? And when you have all these dedicated people that are stacking sats and taking self-custody themselves, which is key because you don't want the paper Bitcoin floating around like fractional reserve, whatnot. So they're taking custody themselves. They're stacking sats. They only have a certain amount. Like they need to be responsible about it, right? They're not dumping their whole life savings into Bitcoin because they think the number is going to go up. They're dumping a responsible amount in, and they're going to continue to dump a responsible amount in after the halving. And maybe they made more money that year from their salary went up. Their regular fiat job went up in salary. They're stacking even more sats. And then you got Uncle John, and he's stacking sats now. And you got Aunt Joanne, she's stacking sats, and they're all stacking sats. And the supply at the same time is going down, right? So if you want to say that the halving wasn't the cause for it, by all means, you can fucking say it. You can say adoption was the cause, but it all goes hand in hand with each other. And I think just the fact that we're discussing whether or not it's priced in, and that half of the people, some of the most sophisticated traders in the space, so-called sophisticated traders, right, like the guys who have degrees and shit, are saying that it's priced in, is exactly why it is not priced in. So, like, no one will ever sell me on that, and I will just, as I said, I think Bitcoin is designed to pump forever, and the halvings are designed to happen forever. So it just all goes hand in hand.
It's Schrodinger's halvening.
Yeah, you don't look at the happening. Did it happen? I don't know.
It's happened and it hasn't happened. Who cares? Like I say, 10 years, man. If you're not selling it.
I mean, I care because I do think the halving has an instrumental effect. I think the miners have real costs, and I think the miners' margins are very, very small.
I don't think it's priced in, by the way.
Yeah, good. Because I think the miners, they have to pay their rent, they have to pay their labor, they have to pay the equipment costs. All this is in fiat. Maybe not the equipment costs, but everything else, maintenance, rent, loans, all this stuff is all paid in fiat. They have to cash out to pay for it, and they're in a low margin business. So the responsible miners are cashing out the majority of the Bitcoin they mine. And when that automatic sell pressure gets halved and demand not only stays consistent, it goes up. How does that not result in the number going up? Like, that is exactly what happens.
And my expectation, there are whales preparing to play this.
I mean, but how do they play it, right? Like, well, if the smart whales know the number's going to go up, right?
Exactly.
So they hold.
Exactly.
They play right into it.
All right. Another, I'm going to flip back and forward between next year and this year as well. So another thing I think that really important thing that's happened this year, and I think we need to look at and pay due and respect to, is everything happening at Square Crypto and everything Jack has done. And we can contrast that with Facebook. But I think Jack coming into the space, having a real dedication to Bitcoin, creating Cash App, full disclosure, sponsor of yourself. But
the podcast.
Of the podcast.
I'm only a part of the podcast.
By virtue of the podcast. But also, his trip out to Africa, spending time out there, looking at the opportunity, creating, putting money behind open source development. He's made a real dedication to this. And he's given it an extra level of credibility, which I think is really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, I think Jack gets it.
Uh-huh. But I also think another thing that's really important about Jack is he gets it to the point where, all right, he has a financial incentive with Square, but I think he's one of those people who's got enough money now. He knows that, right? I think he realizes the greater importance of it.
I agree. I mean, the financial incentive is good. That's what Bitcoin thrives on, right? We want financial incentive to pump the price, and he absolutely has that. But I do agree that I think that he's kind of got into fuck you billionaire status, right? Is he a billionaire? I don't know.
I would expect so.
I might be overstepping. He might be hundreds of millions. But anyway.
Well, if you take in shareholdings and owning, what he owns in terms of Twitter and
right, but it's
Square
basically like Elon Musk style. I just think he doesn't.
Whoa.
He's worth $4 billion. Okay,
Yeah.
So he's at fuck you billionaire status.
Yeah.
And I think he does agree with the mission. And as far as I'm concerned, he's not a threat. In terms of, we can embrace him now. And if he ever steps over the line, then we could do the Bitcoin thing. We slay our heroes, right?
He's not gonna do that, though.
Yeah, but if he does, that's what I'm saying. There's no threat there. I've said this many times. Cash App is more important to Americans. It's U.S. only right now. They're trying to change that, but it's U.S. only right now. Cash App is more important to Americans than the ETF, right?
Uh-huh.
Because in ETF, while allowing many Americans to get exposure that wouldn't get otherwise, they don't get to take self-custody, right? So with Cash App, you can actually pull out your money and take control of your Bitcoin. And if you don't take control of your Bitcoin, they're not your Bitcoin. So I think in terms of that, having the number one finance app in America selling Bitcoin is absolute game changer. And it's so easy to see the connections you can make with something like a Twitter and their Square retail business, where I don't know if you noticed, but in America, they control 70% of the point of sale units, which I can't call POS units anymore because of fucking proof of stake. So,
well, POS goes further back than proof of stake.
I know, but now I can't, whenever I talk about point of sale, I have
Yeah.
to say point of sale just in case people get confused. But you can see the combination they can make there. And then just to add on top of that, I think a lot of people's biggest issues with Jack is Twitter, and that's my biggest issue with Jack. He has no control over Twitter, really. He's a minority shareholder. They brought him back as CEO, but he's kind of powerless. He's more of an ideologue over there. But the fact that they have this Square crypto analog that they're doing with decentralizing Twitter, trying to create a protocol, something similar to Mastodon.
Well, we can talk about that.
Where they're a client. But just the fact that he's floating that idea and he convinced board members to fund it, right, is a huge step in the direction we want to see. That is what I expect the future of social media to be. And for him to realize that, I think, is huge. And if we can integrate Lightning payments along that whole thing, and let alone the fact that he took, when he took the Lightning torch from me, the requirement that was, it had
fucking
to
show off.
It had to be full node to full node.
Okay.
And it had to be multi-hop. It couldn't be. I couldn't just open a channel to Jack, because that's cheating, right? Like you can open a channel to anyone. That doesn't prove the Lightning Network works, right? But if we each have channels open with other people and the payment still gets processed, it still goes through the network, then the Lightning Network works. He was like a purist about it, right? And that shows that he's in the right place. Like he believes in the mission.
I don't think my Lightning Torch thing got enough credit, by the way.
Who did you pass the torch to?
It's not who I passed it to. It's how I did it. It's how I did it.
How'd you do it, Pete?
I did it from plane to plane.
Plane to plane, questionable.
Yeah. No, I can't remember where I was, but I was in the States and I was crossing over, where the fuck was it? Massachusetts. And the other guy, I said, whoever wants it's got to be in a plane as well. And we went plane to plane.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought so.
Jack Mahlers did the plane thing first.
He did the first plane, yeah.
He did the first. So you like kind of just like added a little bit on top. You were like, I'm trying to.
Yeah, plane to plane.
Well, the funny thing about my Lightning Torch handoff
to Jack.
Yeah, was
to
that
the owner of Twitter.
It took us 13 hours.
What?
Because he insisted on full nodes and everything went really slow, and people were calling, like classic crypto Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter, like people were calling me a scammer. Matt stealing the $90 that's in the torch. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's what I'm gonna do in the middle of the bear market. I'm gonna steal your $90.
Didn't someone steal it at some point?
Yeah. 2 people stole it.
2 people stole it.
And we continued it. That's the beauty of Bitcoin.
What did you think of that when they did it? I mean, obviously they're a dick, but they also proved a point.
I was actually bearish on the Lightning Trust chain in the beginning.
Okay.
Because I thought it taught the wrong thing.
Okay.
Which is, we're supposed to be saying don't trust, verify.
Exactly.
And you're just sending money to people and trusting them.
And everyone gave that guy some shit. And like, it was a dick move, but at the same time, I was like, well, he did prove a point.
He proved a point, but like, it was a point everyone knew.
Yeah.
So he deserved the shit, in my opinion. Because we all knew he could steal it.
Yeah.
Okay. I came around eventually. That's why I was one of the later ones, the Lightning. I didn't like ask for it. I didn't like go out and reach out to people. Basically, like people like bullied me into accepting it, to be honest.
Wasn't there a Bcash torch afterwards?
No one pays attention to that shit. There was probably like a Ripple torch too.
I think the flame went out.
But I came around to it because the idea was that we were in a bear market. We had a new technology. And like we should come together as Bitcoiners, right? Like just because we say don't trust, verify doesn't mean you shouldn't trust anyone, right? Like I made so many friends in Bitcoin, you included, who I do trust, right? And it was like an icebreaker, right? It was like when you go to college and they do like the icebreakers, so you get to know everybody. That's what it was. And then of course some people are going to be bad actors, and you just ostracize them and you carry on. And
big shout out to Hodl and Nort.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to Hodl.
I really hope he wins the CoinDesk thing.
Well, funny story was when I was in Riga, in solidarity with HODL, all the employees of HODL were wearing HODL badges, right? I think I told you this. When I first walked in, I tried to walk to the speaker section because I was a speaker, and I had no affiliation whatsoever. It wasn't obvious. So I like walked to the back, and the huge ass Latvian security guard like stopped me, and like we got into this whole thing. And then one of the guys from HODL like walked up to me and was like, "Oh, this is Matt Odell, like it's fine." And I looked at his name tag. I was like, "Dude, it's such an honor to meet you." Like I gave my whole like HODL thing. And then he like kind of just like brushed me off, and I was like, "Well, that was fucked." Like I thought we knew each other on Twitter, and then later on, I realized that they all had the HODL thing. So I was like, "Oh, that wasn't HODL. That was just a random HODL employee."
I'd already met him, so I met him in Norway. I went out to the Alex Gladstein took me out to the Human Rights Foundation Freedom Forum, and obviously, me and Hodl and Nort have something in common. We won't refer to it, but we have a lawsuit in common. And
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, of course I knew that. Continue.
And so he was like, he's in Norway. He's like, come and meet me for a beer. So we went out a beer. He's such a cool dude, actually. And he gave me a football shirt. He gave me the shirt he has for his local team, which obviously my son took. We hung out. We had a couple of beers. Caught up with him. Good dude. We talked regularly.
I've never met him. I've only met the fake HODL in Riga.
The real one's the best.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
By the way,
meet him soon.
There was someone else I wanted to give a shout out to. Well, it's this time of year, and they might be embarrassed about it. But we were talking about Jack, and I do want to give a shout out to Miles Suter. I think a very...
Miles is a fucking boss.
He's a fucking boss, and he's so under the radar, doing so much good, that he deserves the moment where we say, thank you, Miles.
The unofficial head of Bitcoin at Square.
The unofficial. But he's just such a great guy, doing so much.
No, he's the best. I consider him a brother at this point, basically.
Yeah, and I think I would put a lot of the credit for what's happening at Square down to him.
Oh, absolutely. He'll never admit it.
No, and he'll probably get pissed off at me for saying this, but like, big shout out to you, Miles. Thank you. Met up with him a few times. Always been really cool. So.
And is he at Miles Suter on Twitter now, or is he still
Is it M Suter?
At Wahoo?
Oh yeah, Wahoo-la Lula.
That's a horrible shout out. If you search Miles Suter, it'll probably come up.
Yeah,
or you
find
can
him.
just we'll just mention us on
I'll put
Twitter
it in
and
the
we'll
show
shout
notes.
him out.
I'll put it in the show notes.
If he forgets, we'll.
We were all Miles Suter. Let's all change our profile to his.
No, I'm not. That was so. I mean, like, I
Fuck
love
Twitter for a
Hodl
day.
Not. I loved Hodl Not, but that was so annoying.
They're still there. There's still
Yeah,
loads
they're
of
still. Yeah, because change is hard. So once they moved, then they never came back. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's at Miles Suter on Twitter.
them. He's changed it.
Yeah.
It was Wahoo-la Lula.
Wahoo.
Wahoo.
But now it's at Miles Suter. So go give him a follow. He's got some great insights. Just a good dude in general.
Have you had any Matt Odell like fake accounts?
Yeah, because I got the L's. The L's are ones, right? It's a
Hold
big
on, are
one.
they scammers rather than people mocking you?
Oh, yeah, they're scammers.
No, I get the one I've got. There's a relevant.
Oh, Relevant Peter McCormick, yeah.
He's actually quite funny.
But because there was another Relevant Peter Schiff.
Schiff, yeah.
Relevant Peter Schiff. But you were retweeting him. He was pretty funny.
He lives near me as well.
We have Al's Lacrosse. Did you see Al's Lacrosse?
No?
Yeah, so we Cash App, we donate when you use the referral code for Cash App for us, which is Stacking Sats, to sign up, we don't get paid any money for it.
Okay.
The user gets paid $10, and $10 gets donated to Owls Lacrosse, like the bird.
Okay.
It's a charity in Chicago. It's a charity in Chicago that Marty was actually, he worked with them.
Okay.
And it helps like underprivileged youth handle bad situations and through lacrosse, right? Through all this training. But literally everyone who was listening thought he was saying Al's Lacrosse. So this guy created a novelty account called Al's Lacrosse, where he's like a Southern New Jersey, like not even a bro, like he's just like I don't even know what to call him, but it turned into this whole thing, and we actually now have merchandise on our store that you could buy that's all Al's Lacrosse branded merchandise, and the proceeds go to Owls Lacrosse. And it was just like I thought it was like an amazing thing that the listeners just came together and like made it happen. Or my Sub Freaks sweatshirt.
I need a Sub Freak sweatshirt. I think that's cool. I need to do some Defiance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would look good.
Yeah.
I like the red and black branding.
Yeah. It's I think I might do it.
One of the key things that we've done is that none of our merch say Bitcoin anywhere.
Interesting.
I think that it should be more low key. Like, it's just really poor OPSEC. Like, I don't want to be taking the subway and have someone ask me what my opinion on Bitcoin is because I'm wearing a shirt. I want to be able to shill them Bitcoin at my own timing. Like, I don't want them to push that on me.
So I brought up the same recently with the HTC phone.
Right.
You know, the blockchain phone they've done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're advertising the fact that you own crypto every time you make a phone call in public.
Right. If someone knows.
Yeah.
If someone knows, they'll know right away.
Yeah.
That's like, if I saw it, I would know right away that was the
Exactly.
blockchain phone.
So
Right.
why the fuck would you do that?
But it doesn't say it. At least it doesn't say it. Like, the worst thing would be if it just said Bitcoin on it in like big
the
letters.
Bitcoin phone.
Which is like what most of the merch says, right? Like, it's not even like there's no nuance whatsoever. Like some of our merch, like for instance, we have like our BTC Pay hat, which I fucking love. Like, a real Bitcoiner knows that's a BTC Pay hat, right? Mm-hmm. But most people would never have any idea that's a BTC Pay hat. So it's a balancing act. Obviously, there's going to be some recognition there. Like, if you follow the podcast or if you follow Bitcoin, like you'll see the connection and you'll put two and two together. But it shouldn't just say Bitcoin on it in like full letters, so like every pre-coiner in the world knows exactly what you're wearing.
Let's talk about BTC Pay. Because you think that's the most important company.
Most important. They're not a company. Which makes them more important.
Okay, fair
It's
enough.
even more. It's the most important project in the space.
Project. Okay, it's not a company.
And I think it's more important than all the companies in the space.
Interesting. Okay, tell me why. I've not used it.
Because BTC Pay solves the issue of merchants needing to accept Bitcoin without a third party.
Okay.
So BitPay fucked us, Coinbase fucked us. Pretty much every merchant processor, even the good ones like OpenNode, they didn't fuck us, but they were compelled to start KYC. They were great. They got compelled to start KYC. I've used OpenNode. We use it for Final Message, my dead man switch service. Great service. They KYC the merchant. They have no choice. And then they, for the convenience of that too, they also take a fee on top, right? So BTC Pay is that self-sovereign software stack for the merchant. Now, I think it goes a step further.
Okay.
Because I think that the way people will get their KYC for your Bitcoin in the future is through BTC Pay merchants who need to offload some of their Bitcoin because they have too much exposure. So imagine you're a BTC Pay, imagine you run a convenience store and cash is like basically outlawed in your country, which is like the reality we're coming to right now. And all these convenience stores in the past have mostly accepted cash. So now they have to move to credit cards. They have to take higher fees. They have to pay their taxes if they weren't paying their taxes. They have the issue with chargebacks. With BTC Pay, they're able to accept Bitcoin and not have a lot of those issues. But they're going to have exposure. And then the issue is, how do I sell that Bitcoin? So then they can be an outlet for cash to Bitcoin, because people come in and, maybe I'll buy milk, and then at the same time I buy $50 worth of Bitcoin, and I take that Bitcoin off their hands. And because they're a small, tiny little convenience store, starting to try and enforce that becomes untenable, right? So that is really that circular Bitcoin economy that we all want to see, because really where the regulatory burden is, where the real issue is on these big transmitters, the exchanges, the fiat processors. So BTC Pay can end around that whole thing. And then on top of that, Chris Belcher, who is most well known for his work on Join Market, which is a coin join protocol, there's this concept called pay joins, where basically the person you pay does the coin join with you. So if I'm paying you, you enter a coin join with me, you contribute inputs, and then we each contribute 2 sets of Bitcoin, and then at the end, on the outside, 4 go in and 2 come out. It's like where'd it go? Who got what? Right? What was the payment? What was the change? And BTC Pay is uniquely set up to handle that process, while someone like BitPay would never in a million years do that.
Did they just drop Bitcoin?
No, they said they had technical difficulties.
Right.
They're such a joke of a company.
Yeah, I know.
They're just absolute, like, fuck them, man. I just so frustrated. They completely lost the plot. They should just process Ethereum transactions, because ETH is money supposedly. So, and leave it at that. They said it was just a technical difficulty. But for a while, they were playing games with like fees and how they were showing fees and discouraging people from using Bitcoin. And the way they handled their QR codes wouldn't work with the majority of wallets. You had to use their own wallet. They were like breaking the UX to make Bitcoin look like it was shitty.
What do you think the incentive is there?
They can go screw themselves. They're a small, closely held company, and they put all their chickens in Bitcoin Cash. Like, that's what it is, and they got it wrong, and it was just a poor business decision. That's what it was. It was an attack. BitPay was an attack. They used to be one of the good guys, and it turned, as I said earlier with Jack, when they turn, we slay our heroes. That's what we do in Bitcoin.
That's what we do. All right, let's talk about Ether a bit. And I know, because of you, partly, I went BTC only, but I do think you can talk about altcoins if your audience has the potential to invest in something and you want to help them make a better decision. I think it's a fair game to talk about it. I'm looking to you for a response.
Like, what do you mean by that?
So, I run a Bitcoin only show, right? I'm not going to have any...
Kinda.
What do you mean, kinda? What the fuck are you on about? Tell me where it isn't.
No, yeah, pretty much. No, I agree.
Come on, you have to answer that.
No, I agree.
No,
you run a mostly Bitcoin only show now.
I run a Bitcoin only show now.
Right.
Not mostly.
Well, we're talking about Ethereum right now. I think...
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, I covered one coin because it was a scam.
No, that was a good episode. And that was very enlightening. That's why we freak out so much.
But I'm saying
that's why Bitcoiners freak out so much about scams. Yeah. I think people call things scams too easily.
Yeah, I agree. I talked about that as well.
And personally, whether or not Ethereum was a scam, it was so large that I never actually called it a scam, because just to be frank, I didn't want to disenfranchise a large amount of audience, because I wanted them to listen to what I had to say
About Bitcoin?
No, and also about Ethereum. Like,
Yeah.
I think Ethereum trends to zero in terms of Bitcoin. I think it's a poor investment in terms of Bitcoin. I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I think if you allocate money into Ethereum, you're going to lose that money compared to if you allocate it into Bitcoin. That's just
Well, that's my point, though.
And you don't have to call it a scam to say that, and more people will believe you than if you just call it a scam.
What
So-
I'm saying is, I'm not going to get someone from the Ethereum community on and tell me why is Ethereum great and talk to me about compound finance and why DAI is
Right.
an important stablecoin. But what I'm saying is, you and I can talk about it in the extent that if we think it's a risky investment, it's a worthy thing to talk about, because some people listening might be Bitcoiners, some people might be multi-coiners, and they need to hear this stuff. The thing I find really, really interesting about Ethereum, one of the most interesting things I found this year, there is a group of people who think Ethereum is absolute garbage. It won't scale. Proof of stake won't happen. ETH2 won't happen. If it does, it's all going to be an absolute fucking disaster, and everyone's going to lose their money. It's all going to crash and die, right? And then there's this other group of people, and bear in mind, I'm from the group of people who, not like you, who don't understand technically. We're just trying to make some investments and trying to make
Right.
some money, right? And then there's this other group of people like, Ethereum is amazing, ETH is money, compound finance is amazing, DAI is amazing. Like, there's all these amazing things. Look how much stuff is happening. Look how much is locked up in DAI. Like, why wouldn't you buy some ETH? And there's very few people who are sitting in the middle going, right, I'm not a maximalist, and I think Ethereum has some potential here, but here's all the drawbacks. It's so binary, the arguments. It's like, it's either amazing or bullshit. And it's very hard for anyone. I always think of the outsider coming in. Someone is like, they've heard about Bitcoin or crypto, and they've come in, they're like, oh, I'm on Coinbase. Oh, maybe I should buy some Ethereum. Let's do some research. And they can't find a solid answer. And that's what I find really interesting.
Well, so two things. First of all, we do talk about altcoins on TFTC, my podcast, on Marty's podcast that I joined him on RHR. We do talk about altcoins because I think it's a good learning experience. I think you get a lot of these ideas are taught in the real world, and we get to see real world consequences from them, and Bitcoiners can learn from that. Like things that we've theorized, like stuff like the big block wars and stuff like Ethereum is doing in reality. So we get to see like how hard it is to run a node and what that affects, and will the US government crack down on them in specific fashion. In terms of the people sitting in the middle, the people sitting in the middle are the ETH guys, because they all own shit tons of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And-
but there
and
are
they just-
Bitcoiners who own ETH.
No, but the majority of altcoiners own large stacks of Bitcoin.
Of course.
They are the middle ground. They just never really talk about it, right? They're talking about their illiquid bags that they can pump. So they don't talk about it, but they do own a large amount of Bitcoin. They are the middle ground. They just,
Interesting.
in terms of their public persona, it doesn't fit that persona.
Right. So what's going on with this? Like, is everyone in denial?
Yes.
Everyone is talking shit. ETH is going to crash and burn to the ground. It's a terrible investment. It has no use.
Yes.
Right.
But I said this last year.
You did. I know.
I
remember
said
that.
negligible value. I will never say zero value because that's just something you'll never get. I think ETH is like, to me, is like everything wrong you do with the project. Stuff like, they have to do a hard fork on January 1st. Did you see this? Like a shotgun hard fork.
I did. They
Because
miscalculated. And
yeah, but
they
like,
were too
why do
busy.
they, like, for instance, like, why do they even have this Ice Age thing, right? It makes no sense when you think about it, because they say it's to hasten proof of stake, but if they delay it every time, then you're just adding complexity for no reason, right? Like, why are you doing that? The whole ICO thing was like their baby. They created that. The whole idea that you can just sell tokens and you're just going to go moon. They made their protocol as effective for that as possible, as quickly as possible. They made that one of the main use cases.
Yeah.
Stuff like the DAO fork, the ASICs, not embracing ASICs, but instead treating them like the enemy. Like, there's a reason Bitcoin's at an all-time high hash rate and Ethereum's at half of what its all-time high was, right? Because, like, why would you invest money into securing your network if you're afraid that at any moment they can just change willy-nilly, like all these different things? They can just brick your hardware. Like, you're never going to fucking do that. So literally everything they do is, like, to me, is like the antithesis of what people should be prioritizing. And then all on top of that, I look at these people, they're not loyal. And I think Udi really hit on this very well recently, although I don't really appreciate his tactics, but he has, where he's basically shilling Tron, lately, sarcastically,
Yeah.
because he's like, why ETH when you could Tron, right? And I think on a larger scale, that is very much true. Like all these guys that are bullish on ETH, supposedly publicly, they got their hands in every single other ETH competitor project, right? And they're ready to turn in a heartbeat. We see that happen with, like Parity's leaving ETH. We see that with the Aragon team. We see it all the time where these guys, they publicly pretend they're pro ETH, and then all of a sudden, here's my new project, and it's better than ETH. It's ETH 2.0. So when you put all those things together, I see ETH as a competing money to Bitcoin, and I see it as a poorly competing money to Bitcoin. And I think that every asset will trend to zero in Bitcoin terms long term, and that includes ETH. So when I say something like that, I mean like real estate, I mean gold, I mean every asset will trend to zero in Bitcoin terms, but especially something like ETH, which like why would you ever hold it? Even the ETH guys are like, you should hold DAI. So like why is anyone holding ETH? They're even floating, like paying DAI for fees. So then literally, why would anyone hold ETH? It makes no sense to me.
I've got half an ETH that was donated to me.
Yeah.
I should sell that shit.
Well, it'll always be a half ETH for what it's worth.
Half an ETH is
but
equals
it's
half an ETH.
in terms of Bitcoin, it will trend to zero, I'm pretty sure.
So one of the things I said about it, again, going from my point of view, the way I always try and approach things is like on a Friday night when I go down the boozer with my friends and I try and explain to them the world we live in and why I don't read Mastering Bitcoin and I don't do all the research you do and I don't read anything about the protocol. I always want to take the position of the guys like, who don't give a fuck. They're like, I want to buy a bit of this stuff and make some money. They're not going to spend any time learning about consensus. They're not going to spend any time learning how the protocol works. They're not going to give a fuck about what a hard fork is or a soft fork is. That to me is the majority of the future Bitcoin holders. Are the people who are going to buy a bit on Coinbase or Kraken, they're going to stick it in a hardware wallet and they're going to sell it when it goes up. That is my focus, my entire focus, not your focus, right?
It's also my focus.
But that's like my entire focus. That's all I care about, right? So when I looked at something like DAI, someone said to me when I was talking about the potential in countries with high inflation, and I talked about Bitcoin, they're like, well, what about this guy in Argentina who's using DAI?
Right.
And I was like, well, the problem I have with DAI is that it's too complicated. And they're like, no, it's not. I was like, well, it is, because what you're saying to people is you need to go onto an exchange, buy some ETH, and then go and create is it called a CDP?
Well, I think that was a little bit unfair, your complaint.
No, it's not at all.
Well, I'm also bearish on DAI. I thought your complaint was a little bit unfair.
I think my complaint's really fair.
Their argument, and I think it's a relatively valid argument, is that the user will just go and buy DAI. They don't have to collateralize the loan or whatnot. They're just buying DAI from an existing DAI holder.
Where are they buying it and where are they holding it?
And, some exchange, the same exchange they would have bought ETH at, right? Like, there's still a centralizing factor there. It's not DeFi. I'll tell you that much. There's no decentralized in the finance part.
You're saying to them, go and buy this digital dollar, because I think most people don't understand it.
On Coinbase, Americans don't need DAI, right? But like, if you're an American, you can just, or wherever Coinbase supports it. I think they're in multiple countries, like many countries now. You can just buy DAI directly. You don't have to deal with any of that shit. My issue with DAI is actually a custodial system that pretends it's not a custodial system. It's a centralized system that pretends it's a decentralized system, and it adds a bunch of other risk factors on top of it that I just would never feel safe holding it. Like, I wouldn't feel safe holding Tether, which is completely centralized and has a trusted third party, but I'd feel more safe holding Tether than DAI, and that just goes to show, like, there's huge risk there. There's more risk than holding Bitcoin, in my opinion.
But you don't see, my problem with DAI is for these people, it's not that they're just buying a digital dollar. They're buying something which has another token attached to it, this MKR. Like, what is it? What does it mean?
Right, but they don't need to know that.
Yeah, but if they do any amount of research...
If they worked, it didn't. If it actually works, which I don't think it will, they wouldn't need to know about it. That's why I think it's like a bad line of reasoning against it, right? Because the ETH guys are thinking in their head, they're thinking this system works. So if this system works, like, we don't know how the internet works. No one knows how email works. You just use it. When you send a Signal message, it just works. You don't know how the code works and Signal on the server and shit like that, point. Right? I just don't think it'll work. So, like, that's the issue. But, like, the actual complexity, I don't think it adds more complexity to that end user who's buying DAI. because they're just oblivious. They don't even know the maker system where the whole governance thing is happening in the background. I mean, that governance system is controlled by like 5 VCs in America, the so-called decentralized system, right? That can just take all your money. But for the actual end user, like I don't think that's a complication. I think the obsession with Bitcoin's volatility is overstated, though.
I don't.
And I think, which is fair that you don't, I think that the censorship resistance qualities override it to a degree. And over time, I think that volatility will edge out. It's because we're early adopters, which is why it's so volatile. But even I was just listening to your podcast with the Argentinians, and they pushed back against the idea that DAI was more useful than Bitcoin. They said,
Yeah, of course.
They said that the majority of Argentinians would prefer to hold Bitcoin than hold DAI because they have other ways to get USD, and they really and those ways aren't censorship resistant. Right, just like DAI isn't censorship resistant, but Bitcoin is censorship resistant and has the chance to lift their family to all new heights in terms of wealth. Right, like there's a whole different level. Like, there's no problem with volatility if it goes up. Like everyone is, we want a stable coin. What people really want is just a coin that doesn't go down.
Yeah, or
right?
or you're outperforming.
Who cares about volatility if it goes up? No one cares about upwards volatility.
Well, yeah, but even on downwards volatility, it doesn't matter if you're outperforming the inflation of your country.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So it's even easier, like if it's a Venezuelan bolivar or something, right?
Yeah. But even this year over
everything
Argentina,
outperforms it. Yeah.
Not only has Bitcoin gone up this year, even if it dropped 40%, I'd have to check, but you might have outperformed the peso.
And you have someone like Matt Odell who's studying remittances, right? And the current system's taking 33% out of the end dollar that gets transferred to Nigeria, right? So if you can beat that 33%, you win.
Exactly.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, like true talk, like that, like everyone says stablecoin, but what they really mean is they wish they could design a coin that never goes down, only goes up, right? And that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is designed to. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin's designed to pump forever.
And Hex is designed to pump.
No, Hex, Hex,
we're not going to talk about that.
Hex will dump if Richard Hart wants it to dump.
It's already dumped. It's one
exactly.
Sat.
It's not designed to pump forever.
Next up, I talked to Matt more about Bitcoin in 2020, but before that, I have a message from my amazing sponsors, and go check them out. So, first up, let's talk about Kraken, the mighty Kraken, the most secure and badass exchange out there. Without doubt, the best place to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin, and they've had such a massive year. It started off with a rebrand, then they acquired crypto derivatives trading platform and index provider of crypto facilities. They launched Kraken Security Labs to improve security across the whole industry. They went mobile with Kraken Pro, a beautiful mobile-first app so you can trade Bitcoin wherever you want. They recruited Bitcoin OGs Dan Held and Pierre Rochard to the team. They expanded their OTC desk with the acquisition of Circle Trade, and then all this other stuff that I can't even fit into the ad. So many things in 1 year. Congratulations to Jesse for building the best and most secure crypto exchange in the world, and good luck for 2020. Love you guys. You want to find out more, head over to kraken.com or download the app, which is available for the iPhone and Android. Just search for Kraken Pro, which is KrakenPro. And lastly, and not least for this week, is BlockFi, the amazing BlockFi, the future of Bitcoin and financial services. And they've also had an amazing year. You know what? I've got the best sponsors. Every one of them has smashed it this year. When I first started work with BlockFi, it was August 18. I had my first ever sponsor, and they've stuck with me since. Back then, they only had crypto-backed loans. Since then, they've added interest accounts for your Bitcoin, Ether, GUSD. They've dropped minimum deposits. They removed the early withdrawal penalty, and you can now receive interest payments in the currency of your choice. They raised a shitload of cash to expand their business. They've expanded the team. They've added support for institutions. And I know what's coming in 2020, and it's badass. It's gonna kill it. I cannot wait to get my hands on this product, and I cannot wait to tell you about it. Absolutely crushed it. Massive congratulations to Florian and Zach. Love you guys. Good luck in 2020. Can't wait to hang out. Can't wait to do more with you. If you're interested in checking out BlockFi, I do always say do your own research. Then head over to blockfi.com, which is BLOCKFI.com.
All right. So after that DAI thing, I think it might be a good time to go through. Let's go through some of the things that I've said this year that got me in trouble, because I'd love to know your opinion on it. Because I said a few. a lot of things, but a few things.
Let's just get Matt in trouble while you're at it.
Yeah, let's get Matt in trouble. Let's see what your position on this. Okay, because the ones I've listed, I still stand by every one. Sometimes I just don't talk about because I get like shouted at or Giacomo going fucking mental at me. Okay, I'm gonna go and start with. Do you remember when I tweeted about 2 Bitcoins?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the context of why I tweeted about it?
Yeah, but like you should have made the context more clear.
I was
You
quite
should have
clear.
made the context more clear.
I was, and quite a lot of people supported me. So my context was very clear. I'd got a phone call that morning from somebody who said, "Look, Pete, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to get into Bitcoin. I'm on Coinbase. There's 2 Bitcoins. Which one should I purchase?" Okay.
Yeah, but the point is that people that were giving you shit also had that frustration for the last 2 years.
But it
so
still exists.
if you had given the proper context, they wouldn't be giving you shit. They would have been agreeing with you.
No.
That was the issue.
No, I think it's Pete McCormack says this. I'll fucking kick
No,
his ass.
you
I think
kinda-
you could have said it.
I think you kind of intentionally. I would have said it better. Is what I'm saying.
Come
I
on,
think
go
you
fuck
kind of,
yourself.
I think you kind of intentionally drew that anger at yourself.
No.
And then
I
when you
didn't.
deleted them afterwards, which I know you delete all your tweets, so
Yeah, I
it's
delete all
not
my
like
tweets.
that's a unique thing.
Yeah.
It allows the imagination to run wild about what exactly you said and
No,
how you said it.
So I
Does
didn't.
it not?
I didn't do it to bring attention on myself. I had a phone call that morning. Okay, I'll happily like name the guy if it helped and
don't
have the
name
conversation. No, I'm not going to. But he said, I think I'm going to buy the Bitcoin Cash. It's cheaper. Okay, so I just went out and said, look, we're in this situation. And what people said, no, there's not 2 Bitcoins. There's only 1 Bitcoin. You're a scammer. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm talking about the fact that when you go to Coinbase for the first time, if you're new, you see Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. This is confusing. We have a problem here.
Right,
And
but-
people got lost in the ideological thing.
No, but your tweet could have easily said, when people go on Coinbase, they think there's 2 Bitcoins when there
That's
aren't
what
2
I-
Bitcoins.
that's what I said.
No. You said there were 2 Bitcoins.
Yeah, I said there's 2 coins. No, actually, what I said, there's 2 coins with the name Bitcoin in it on Coinbase. There's
Well,
2 Bitcoins.
no one knows
Let's-
because you deleted the tweet.
Let's say it in the fairest way possible. The guy said to me, which Bitcoin should I buy? So in his mind, there's 2 Bitcoins there.
Correct.
Yeah.
That would have been a good way of phrasing it.
Yeah, but the problem
You didn't phrase it that
the
way.
problem wasn't how I phrased it. I
It
think
was.
I think if I phrased it better, it's still Pete McCormack said it. Let's go and fucking
I think
mad.
if you phrased it better, it would have been not as bad.
Did you understand my point?
Yes.
Okay.
But most people on Twitter don't have nuance, and I have nuance, so I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
think it's
faced
more
that. I faced that. You know, which Bitcoin do I buy? And you buy the real Bitcoin.
But
Yeah.
I raised it to talk about it.
But that's why it's important. So, like, for instance, my listeners, like our listeners on Tales from the Crypt, they aren't, some of them are new Bitcoiners, but they're not mainstream. We're training the Bitcoin guy, right? So they're the guy that's a part of the friend group that tells everyone which Bitcoin's the real Bitcoin, right? They're the guy who tells everyone that they should run their own node, that they should coin join, that they should check out Lightning, that, you know, not your keys, not your coins, you know, not your node, not your rules. Like, that's our
What,
dudes.
like me.
Well, I think you're a Bitcoin guy now.
Yeah, of course I am.
Right,
But what I'm
yeah.
saying is, what do you think I said when the guy said to me on the phone? I said to
That's
him,
what I'm saying.
BTC is Bitcoin. Forget the other one. It's a scam. It's bullshit.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not worth getting caught up in the fact that people are going to be confused because these people, these malicious individuals, are going to try and confuse people left and right. We have this free market and it's fucking beautiful, but it has its downsides. And the downsides is that malicious people, malicious actors will try and confuse people.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the community comes into play. That's where the people that actually know their shit, that actually spend time on this every day, have to come in and guide their friends and family and guide them in the right direction, because otherwise these people get wrecked. And as I said earlier, like, I don't think it's a threat to Bitcoin. Like, if people accidentally buy Bitcoin Cash, like, that fucking sucks
Yeah.
for those people. But Bitcoin is fine. Like,
No,
because
Bitcoin is fine, but like we can say, oh, Bitcoin doesn't give a fuck the whole time. The point I was trying to get to is, like, I think something like Coinbase has a responsibility when you're buying Bitcoin Cash to warn you and say,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that
this
was the
is
point I
why
was
we've
getting
been
to.
telling people to delete Coinbase. Okay, I think if you're an exchange, you know, Bitcoin Cash is what, top 5, top 6 by trade volume or something like that. Like, by all means, you know, support it. You know, people, if Bitcoiners want to dump their Bitcoin Cash, they need an outlet to dump their Bitcoin Cash. Coinbase was intentionally malicious about it. Okay, and they were sending out like learner emails and
course,
stuff,
yeah.
trying to like basically convince people to buy it. They had a product where you could just buy a basket of all these different cryptos, and it included Bitcoin Cash, and it included them at their current market cap.
Yep.
So it basically created this self-fulfilling prophecy where if that product was successful, which it wasn't because they canceled, it basically ensured that the top 5 pumped, right? Because if Coinbase could get that kind of volume into that product, then those 5 would just always separate from the next 6 through 15 or something, right?
Right. But one thing I'm going to stand by, I definitely think about new users and beginners and their UX and their journey a lot more than other people. And I think about it in a way with a lot more compassion about what they're going through than most people. Most people are like, well, fuck you can get wrecked and figure it out, blah, blah, blah. And I don't. And I still stand by the fact that I stand by it. A lot of people will go to that website, they will see 2 things called Bitcoin, and I don't think we've done a good enough job. Because these
But that's
people
what
on
I'm saying.
Twitter.
So see, this is the phrasing again. And we haven't done shit, okay? Coinbase hasn't done a good enough job. Coinbase has done the opposite of a good job. Coinbase has intentionally misled people, and they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, but the point being
Do you
is-
not remember, you were around when they ninja launched Bitcoin Cash on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I remember it.
And the price went up to 4,500 at the same time that Roger went on CNBC, and they did all this shit, and there was all this insider trading because you saw the price pump right before it fucking happened. Like, they can go fuck themselves on
Yeah,
that.
fuck
right?
themselves, fuck this,
But
fuck-
that's not
no,
our
no.
fault. That's not my fault.
No,
There's nothing I could do about that except tell them to go fuck themselves, right? Like, what
okay.
am I supposed to do? And that's the phrasing. Like, all comes down to the phrasing
Yeah,
there.
but the
because it isn't our fault. There's nothing we can do about it.
No, I agree. But the question I was putting out there is what can we do to help? What can we do to help guide people away from this? Because it was an actual problem that happened. Okay, we can go fuck you Coinbase, fuck this Coinbase. That's not gonna change Coinbase because a few people are going fuck you on Twitter. Like, what can we? All I was saying is, what can we do to make this easier? It was an actual, so I stand by it.
We can push them towards other services that aren't malicious towards their users.
Yeah.
We can educate them on why Bitcoin Cash is insecure, which I've done, I think, a fabulous job at doing. You can look back.
Yeah, but this is.
I even have a tweet at the top at 4,500, which I said Bitcoin Cash was worthless to me and is trending to 0. You can go
Okay.
back and look at it.
But
It's
this-
a beautiful fucking tweet.
But Matt, this is fine for all the people who
I'm
are
gonna
on
frame
Twitter.
it, put it in my Bitcoin room.
But the majority of people, when they first hear about Bitcoin, will be in the news, will be in mainstream media. They will Google Bitcoin. They will go to Coinbase, and they're going to skip you, me, everyone on Twitter. And they're going to that's going to be their funnel straight into there, and they're going to see a Bitcoin that costs $7,000 and one that costs $200.
And I think that's where it comes down to us organically, training these Bitcoin guys, like the Bitcoin guy,
Yeah.
like the guy of the group who's the Bitcoin guy, and
Yeah.
they're going to go to them, and it's going to be a trusted third party, but at least it's a trusted third party that you've known since you were 15.
some will
you
go
know?
to them.
No, yeah,
No,
we can't save them all. We
I
can't
think
save them all.
in the next bull run, the vast majority, I would put my bottom dollar on them going, reading about Bitcoin, Google Bitcoin, go to Coinbase.
But they're not going to get they're going to buy the cheapest coin on Coinbase, probably not
There you go.
Bitcoin Cash.
Well, yeah, but they
They'll
might.
probably buy like fucking Ox or some bullshit, that
Zero
Coinbase is that Coinbase has on there. That's like cents on the dollar per unit, because that's like the main name of the game for these shit coins is to increase their supply to a
I'm not
point
convinced.
where the unit is so low, which is one of the reasons why we adopted SAPs, right? Because we have to compete on that level. I think
I'm not convinced. I think they will go and they will want to buy some form of Bitcoin, and they might buy the wrong one.
Okay, well, look, there's only so much we can do about it, right?
Okay.
And you try your best, and I think instead of dwelling on the people that we've lost along the way, you dwell on the people that are in our DMs that are like, Matt, like, you've taught me so much. I'm so grateful for your podcast. Like, you saved me from getting wrecked. Like, that's what it's all about.
Of course.
And if 10 people, 20 people, 30 people say that to me, it was all worth it.
Okay.
Because like we're one person. How much is one person supposed to do to prevent this kind of fucking negligence? Like I don't think that you should hold yourself, like, I hold myself to extremely high standard, and I wouldn't even hold myself to that standard because there's fucked up people out there, and they're gonna do fucked up things, and we have the Mark Cubans of the world, and we have the Noriels of the world, and we have the Peter Schiffs of the world who just tell people that Bitcoin's a scam, and buy gold, buy bonds, try and become an accredited investor and invest in VC. I don't know. Mark Cuban's chilling. Like, I don't even know. It's like no one could invest in what you're investing in because they're not accredited investors.
John Carvalho took him down with his unicorn thing.
But like, all
right,
they're all coming after us, and you try your best. And I think the key here is that if you train those hardcore Bitcoin holders, you train the guys that are running their own nodes, that are holding their own keys, and then they go out and they're 10, 30 people that they connect with, that they're the Bitcoin guy to those people. Like, that's the most organic way to do it. Because at the end of the day, someone new comes in, they log on to Twitter, they follow me or they follow you, and they listen to the podcast, or they follow Stefan Livera and they listen to the podcasts, and they're told that Bitcoin Cash is a scam. 9 times out of 10, they won't believe them. Right? They won't believe them. They'll tell them it's trending to zero. They won't believe them.
Yep.
But if their buddy Billy, who they've known since they were 15, tells them, "Look, dude, I've been in this game for 2 years. I listen to Matt and Marty every week, and you don't want to get into this. Like, it's a bad idea." Like, they're way more likely to believe that guy, right? So, like, I think that's the way to do it. And I there's no reason to stay up at night about it because we just try our best.
So I'm going to say we're even on that one. In that
Questionable.
Well, in that you agree that you said I got the phrasing wrong, but you agree with the point.
Well, the issue is there aren't 2 Bitcoins, but people perceive there are 2 Bitcoins.
Okay, so
and you fucked up that
phrasing. Sorry, I didn't sit and write it in the exact phrase to have the ideological point correct. When I was really trying to make a UX point, but the UX point is correct, the ideological point is incorrect. So what we're saying is I got the phrasing wrong, but the point is correct. So we'll call it. I'll give you even, and I think you agree. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I'm shaking my head.
All right, the next one. When I was like, oh, by the way, I don't have a node. Nodegate. I don't have a node.
Our Telegram chat sparked that.
Yeah, we did. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go and admit it.
I was like, I literally rolled my eyes at you when I saw the tweet.
Yeah, and I was like...
Because I knew exactly what you were doing.
Yeah, I wanted to see the point. And the one fact I'll stand by is that more people are now have a node than before I did that.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and the point being is that I was just saying, look, guys, it just feels like a lot of work. It's a bit of a pain. Yes, I can just plug in my Castle node. Look, I understand that, and you do, and it syncs and it's on, okay? But I still stand by the fact that I think the thought, I'm like, and I go back to all my friends I hang out with, and they're like, "Oh, Pete, what's going on with Bitcoin? Should I buy something?" I'm like, yeah, you should get into it now. You should buy a little bit every month. Oh, and by the way, you should get a node. And I'm like, well, what's that? Well, it's a way for you to verify your income in and outgoing transactions, and it's like this thing you set up either on your laptop or you buy this device from Casa. And, and you can sync it to your... Like, they're not going to fucking do this. They're just not going to do this.
Right.
They might hold some. As bad as it is, they might hold some in a custodial Coinbase Kraken wallet. Or, the best, they might even get a Trezor or a Ledger and do that. The reason I think there's such a low percentage of people running nodes is because it's a pain, it's too much to think about, it's too much hard work.
So first of all, you never did that beginner's guide that you were supposed to do, right?
What's
did
that?
you do the beginner series?
Well, I've done the first show that's recorded. It's going out in January.
But you never released it. So the whole point was that Pete had a beginner's guide series that he proposed, and he proposed it on Twitter, and he listed all the things. And I looked at it, and I Telegram messaged him, and I was like, there needs to be a section on full nodes.
Yep.
If you can't get someone else to do it, I will join you for that section.
I've got
and then
the
you
index.
were like, I'm going to get my research by flaming Bitcoiners by saying I don't run a node and
That's
see
not
what
fair.
happens.
No,
right?
you can't bullshit just because people will listen to this, Matt. People will listen to this and go, no, Matt, you've expressed it. That's not how. You know that didn't happen.
Okay,
be fair.
We can agree to disagree on
No,
that.
I'll dig out the conversation and then I'll flame you back and I can let people read the conversation.
No, you're not gonna.
No, because if you're gonna put it out there and say it happened, then I'll put the truth out there.
So what was your take on that? What you were trying to get research? You admit that's a strategy you use, right?
Yeah, I said no. I use it for a research tool for shows. As I remember it, and I'd have to go back to the conversation now. You said nodes should be part of it, and I said no, that shouldn't be part of a beginner's guide. That's too advanced.
Right.
I just think it's too advanced.
And then to test that hypothesis,
I'll put it out on Twitter and say I don't have a node.
Okay, we agree on that.
Yeah,
we agree on that.
So I just say, look, I've not fucking
So it's
done
just
it.
a wording thing, but we agree on that.
We're back to phrasing. The point being is that I think if you want a beginner's guide to Bitcoin, I don't think the beginner's guide has a full node. I think intermediate guide, cool.
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Look, the point here isn't that everyone runs a full node. The point is that everyone can run a full node, and that everyone can run one privately if they need to. So one of the important specs, I think, in my mind, is that you can run a node over Tor. Because if you can't run a node over Tor, then you're exposing your IP address. And if you're exposing your IP address, then your internet provider and your government know that you're running a node. So if we're talking about censorship resistance, like there's no way that network survives if you can't run it privately. Okay? So the whole point isn't that everyone runs a node. The whole point is that a critical minority runs nodes, and that anyone at any time can run a node for relatively cheap. Like you're trying to run an ETH node, it takes a lot of fucking hardware. You want to run a Bitcoin node, it takes $200 worth of hardware. And yes, it'll take you 15 hours to figure it all out, especially if you're doing it yourself and you're not buying a purpose-built node, which is more expensive, obviously. But the fact that you can is the key, right? The fact that you can verify everything that's happening on this network from the genesis, from when it happened. I mean, to be fair, there is a checkpoint in like 2013 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can still verify everything relatively cheaply. I think that is the key. I think it'll become easier to run a node, but I don't think everyone needs to run a node. And I think like a lot of times, like exactly what I said earlier, where you have the guys that listen to Tales from the Crypt or listen to what Bitcoin did will run the node for people. And then, like 15 of my friends, 20 of my friends, my family, they'll all connect to my node, right? And all of a sudden that trust profile is way better than, trusting PayPal. You're just trusting, your best buddy Matt, or your Uncle Jim or something.
But that wasn't my point. My point is that I got a lot of shit for that. People are saying, what, you've been in Bitcoin for 2 years, you haven't settled a node, you don't even understand it. I was like, no, because I'm trying to be like everyone else that I think is coming into Bitcoin, and we have a minority of very, very good, very experienced, very knowledgeable Bitcoin people who care about the tech, they care about the protocol, they understand about every fork, why it's happened, they understand about BIPs, they read about them, they understand the full detail, and they want to have a node, and they're going to run that node. I'm saying the majority of people don't give a fuck and can't be bothered to go through the process of doing it, and therefore that's why it shouldn't be part of a beginner's guide, because I think they'll skip that one.
But look, I think most people don't think it should be part of a beginner's guide.
No, I think,
well, first of all, two things. First of all, I think the number one argument for getting people to run nodes is privacy, not sovereignty. Not the main argument people have been making for the longest time is you want to verify Bitcoin supply or whatever. People can't understand what that means because they've never been able to verify any supply in the past, so it just doesn't hit them right. But if you tell them if you want to even have any semblance of privacy in Bitcoin, you need to run your own node, they understand what that means. Like, I want privacy. People want privacy. They can innately figure out what that means. The second thing is, the reason you got shit was because you are a Bitcoin podcaster.
Yep.
You've dedicated your life to this.
Mm-hmm.
You were giving away Casa nodes.
Yeah, like 12,
and received one
14.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was one of the easiest nodes to run. And besides that, as a podcaster with such a platform, there was countless people at Casa that would have spent hours on the phone with you setting it up. So even
I know that though.
But even if it was difficult, you still I as a Bitcoiner, I was a little bit offended. Like, I felt like you should have
good.
You should have spent some time and spent those 5 hours with Nick Newman on the phone from Casa, and had him walk you through it if you had any issues.
Yeah, but it wasn't about whether they had any issues. I just never got round to it.
Exactly. So fuck you.
No, it's not fuck you. It is, I never thought it was important enough. And I reckon my behavior is more similar to the most people in Bitcoin who were going to buy Bitcoin than the minority. And I've always, habitually tried to stay like that. I've habitually tried to stay because I want to ask the questions. I could show you my emails. All the people emailing me, they say, I love your questions. You're asking the questions that I want to ask, right? If I just do it because I think I should rather than because I want to, that's a different thing. Do I think I should have a node? Fuck yeah. Of course I should. I'm a Bitcoiner. Do I want to? Can I be bothered? I don't understand. It feels like hard work. I'm actually kind of happy with it on my ledger, hidden away in my house. But it's
not. That's my point. It's like just try, bro. Like, just what are you doing?
Because
what are you doing? Like, this is it's
how much shit I'm going to get.
It's not easy, right? but it's not that hard. Okay, and if you put in so much fucking work into this podcast,
Yeah.
okay, putting in a couple hours to learning, like using the node that you're not selling, but you're giving away to people,
The ones who want it.
yeah, but why hasn't that happened? Like why aren't you? I mean, I know you did it afterwards, right? But like, I mean, that's why I reached out to you, right? Because you should. That's my point. Like for instance, like on Tales from the Crypt, like I won't talk about products I don't use, like I've never used. Like I think that's like, it's part of the responsibility that we have as public facing Bitcoiners is to actually use this shit. And then, you know, if you want to be of the perspective of the average person coming into Bitcoin.
No, not the average, the majority.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Which is the same as the average. Right, the majority is pretty much it. But anyway, regardless, the majority of people that come into Bitcoin, you have way more knowledge of what they might face if you actually try and do it, right?
No,
like,
because
plug it
they
in.
can get that from you. They can get the node stuff from you. All right.
But the point is, you don't really know what they face unless you try and face it,
Okay.
right?
No, but I can pass. Like, I'm the beginner. They can go to you, then go to Stefan. Okay. Live confession. I'm going to get a lot of shit for this right now. I've got 3 nodes set up at home, right? I've got a nodal, I've got a Castle node, and I've got a Bitcoin Core node. All running
With just Bitcoin cores on your computer?
on a spare laptop, right? I'm still not using them. Okay.
That's fair.
I'm still not using them. I'm still the handful of transactions I'm doing right now are on my hardware wallet, on my Ledger wallet, and I'm still doing that.
That's fair.
I've not
That's why
connected to
they're
my
so
node.
popular.
Yeah, because it's easy, and that's the point. Is that, you know, like, what is the point in having these positions and these opinions where I'm gonna get so much shit from that small group of techies and hardcore Bitcoiners? When they hear stuff like this, they
But
go
the point
mental at me.
The point is that I do it, and then I say it's too difficult. It's different than not doing it and saying it's too difficult.
I'm not saying I'm not
No,
saying I'm
because-
not doing.
but
I'm
you-
just saying I just.
But you see what I'm saying? Like you can if you spent 5 hours, you could figure out how to get your ledger to verify in your node. Whether that's through Wasabi, whether that's through Electrum, you can figure it out.
No, Wasabi is too confusing.
Okay, I don't think
Way
so.
too
I
confusing.
disagree heavily there.
Okay, but this one you're
besides
wrong
the
on.
point, besides the point, if you do it, then you can say it's too hard. Then you have the right to say it's too hard. As someone who's major into Bitcoin, right? As someone who other people are listening to you talking about Bitcoin, then you have the right to say it's too hard.
No, I have the right.
Which I do. I say CoinJoin's too hard. I say running your own nodes too hard. I say storing your own keys are too hard. I do all of those things, right? And they're too difficult, and they will get easier. But like, you don't have a leg to stand on if you haven't actually gone through that effort.
Yes, I do, because I will probably be doing what most people will be doing and going, this is too much, I don't give a fuck. And I think that's a way more important thing than doing it and saying it's too hard. I think by me going, this is too much for me, I think I am in the camp that the majority of people are, therefore I'm saying, solve this for me, because it's too much right now.
Okay.
If I just do it, yeah, and
Look, it's
I'll
fair,
stand by this.
But the hardcore Bitcoiners, myself included,
Mm-hmm.
we believe in personal responsibility. There's not enough personal responsibility in this world. And, you know, if you want to have personal responsibility, then you should be trying these things.
Yeah, but I
right?
don't.
And then that's, you know, and that's where you're going to get shit. That's why you do get shit, you know?
And I'll stand by it, because I think I'm more representative of these people than anyone else. So, like it's not just marketing. There must be a reason that, despite everyone thinking I'm a fucking moron, I get a lot of people listen to the show, and it's not just because of the guests. Like, there are a lot of people who I think are more like me than like you.
Well, what you did really well as well was that you had Bitcoin in the name of the podcast, which I've given Marty a lot of shit about. I didn't name the podcast, so.
I don't think it's down to that.
But it did help what Bitcoin did. It's
Yeah.
a good SEO.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
wish I hadn't though. I wish it was just called the McCormack Show and I could do other stuff.
Well, now you're trying to
Yeah, but
brand
that
it all under that, right?
that'll be separate. But I think
Which I think is a bad idea.
no, that'll be completely separate. work.
Okay.
That's nothing to do with the Bitcoin Show. Like
It'll be a package. You have Defiance,
Yeah,
what
no,
Bitcoin did, and the
there's
McCormick
these
Show.
odd other shows I want to do where they don't fit into either other people, but like either show, but I want to talk to them. And
That's
then
fair as well.
So I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the point. I think my show is. I think I said it to Bitstein. I think I said I've got the Taylor Swift of Bitcoin podcasts. Like, it's the most generic, the most easy one to access. And I think most people are going to work, they're coming back, they hear about Bitcoin, they might have an hour in the evening. They're not sat there reading Mastering Bitcoin. They're not sat there understanding how the protocol works. They're not doing any of that stuff. Then they don't have the time to set up a node. Not that I'm saying they shouldn't.
But this
it
is
would
all
be
fair.
great if everyone did. But like every time, like there's plenty of times, Matt, where I'm like, this is what I say to myself. I'm like, if I have to force myself to do something I don't think I would naturally do, then I don't do it because I want to stay in the camp with that group of people trying to think how they think. Therefore, I'm trying to have the experience they're having and I'm trying to ask the questions they might ask. And that's the only way I can do that.
No, I agree. I just think you'd do it better if you actually tried these things.
What, and say what, I've set up a node and it's too hard?
Yeah. Like, this is why it's too hard.
I think,
You know?
no,
And I think you did. I think when you did set up nodes, you learned. You learned more.
yeah, it's too much of a pain.
I think you're more educated now on the subject because you tried and you did it.
Yeah, and I think it's too much of a
Right?
pain.
I think your listeners benefit from it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, more set up from it, but whether we agree on the nuance of how I approached it, I think the fact that I approached it and made it a topic of conversation was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I deserve the credit for that though, because I telegrammed you and said that Node should be a part of the educational package. So
And you were wrong, and therefore I was right. Okay, you're going to hate this one, and I stand by this one. I'm going to try and get the nuance correct. People are aware of privacy and how much their privacy is being abused. It's too hard to achieve a high level of privacy.
yes.
Wow, we agreed.
No, but see, I've agreed with this. I actually said it earlier, and the reason I know it's so hard is because I've actually tried.
Okay.
Right? So you have to actually try before you get to comment that, in my opinion.
Well,
But
I
it's
read what I had to do.
extremely difficult. It is way too difficult. And I think the most privacy conscious Bitcoiners are the ones who realize it the most because they've actually tried to do it. So the same people. I mean, look, one of the reasons why I've been pushing CoinJoin usage and trying to normalize the usage of CoinJoin is because it's one of those things that we need more people to do it. Otherwise, forget UX. Like, it just won't even be effective. Like, you're trying to hide in the crowd. Like, if you can't hide in the crowd, if the usage isn't normalized, if people aren't, Chain Analysis did a report where they released that like 90% of CoinJoin usage was legal behavior, was non-illicit behavior, was completely above board. And Chain Analysis is in the business of actually saying the opposite.
Uh-huh.
So you can imagine that they actually understated that number. But it's key here that we convince, the KYC using crowd, the crowd that is buying on something like Cash App or something like Kraken and then withdrawing and coin joining. Convincing them to coin join is key to the whole system being private. The system that is transparent by default. If the only people that are using these privacy tools are drug dealers or, in the words of Trace, like terrorists or North Koreans, then we're screwed, right? We need to normalize this behavior, and that's why I've been trying to advocate for it. But it's definitely an uphill struggle. Uphill battle. But the key here that we have to understand is that if you talk to someone who's privacy focused, they will say that default privacy or nothing. If you don't have default privacy, you don't have privacy.
Uh-huh.
And then if you talk to Safe, you talk to an economics minded person, they will say transparent or nothing. Because if you don't have a verifiable supply, then what is the point of Bitcoin? So really what we need is a balance in the middle, which is way too much nuance for Twitter, which is why we often have these arguments. And the reason you need the balance is because at the end of the day, we're talking about censorship resistance.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't have a token that has value, in this case Bitcoin, then there's nothing to pay the miners. And if you can't pay the miners, then you don't have a distributed network of validators that is securing your network from state actors. So even if you had the best privacy in the world, you have no censorship resistance because you can't send value around the world, right?
You're right.
So there's a balancing act here that we as Bitcoiners need to find, And CoinJoin is part of that solution. I think Lightning's part of that solution, and we're still a little bit away from it being easier. But I think I see the trend going in that direction, and I'm very optimistic about it. I think that the block size debate, this whole Bitcoin Cash nonsense, like really slowed us down in that regard.
But so my point is, we live in a world where the great hack's been released.
Right.
People have seen that. They've watched it on Netflix.
You had that interview. It was a good interview.
Yeah, Brittany. Yeah, it was a great one, actually. So we've seen that. We understand what Cambridge Analytica are up to. We understand what Facebook's up to. Multiple times Facebook have had our data leaked. But it's not just Facebook. Was it Experian had a massive data leak? We've had data
Literally, that was every single American adult.
Yeah.
Every single American adult. And we couldn't even opt into that. That was just, we had no choice. We just got fucking doxxed by design, and then they got fucked.
And I think the natural reaction now is like, oh, it's happening again. Anyway, I'm off to work.
No, I think it's the opposite.
I think people are going, this is a disgrace, and now I need to change it.
Yes.
So you think they're changing their press? So why?
I think every single time. I think first of all, the internet is still relatively new, and it's growing at leaps and bounds. And as we put more information on the internet, you're going to have bigger and bigger hacks and leaks and whatnot. And as these hacks and leaks escalate, people will become more and more aware about how much privacy they're leaking. You had the New York Times article this week where people were like freaking out because you could see phones getting tracked in the Pentagon, in the White House. You saw Trump's security detail getting tracked, right? So if even they're getting tracked, then everyone is fucking getting tracked.
But let's come to my point. We've had all this. Are people leaving Facebook because of it?
Yes.
Small amount.
I've left Facebook.
Yeah, and I would expect you to. And I haven't, and I would expect me not to.
You should leave Facebook.
Yeah, I know I should.
Why the fuck are you still on Facebook, bro?
It's a good marketing tool.
Questionable.
It's pretty good.
Facebook doesn't have real engagement. Anyway,
but my point being is that, and then in terms of the phone, has everyone gone to their phone and switched off all the tracking?
Right,
No. So the point. Let me get to the point I'm trying to make is that I think people care about privacy, but they want it handed to them on a plate. So
that's never going to happen.
Well,
you'll never get privacy on a plate.
Well,
it'll always be the more difficult option.
I think it can be made easier. So, for example, I think if Apple built amazing privacy tools into their OS, when they're starting to look at it, they've
been doing that.
But
then the question is, are they just giving it all to the U.S. government on the other side? Because they are a centralized entity, it's closed source. You don't really know.
Who knows? What I'm saying is, if that was built in by default, great. So my problem is, I tried Wasabi Wallet and I went, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing now. Can't be bothered. Like most of my things. Now, Matt, I could have sat there and figured it out. I've got no problem.
You could have, and I expected you to, and I was disappointed.
This is the point I've always said. People are like, oh, you must be a fucking idiot if you can't figure out. Look, I engineered a show before I had an engineer. I coded the website. I did the SEO. Look, if I care enough, I can do this stuff.
You should care.
Yeah. If I cared enough, I know how to do it. I could sit and figure out Wasabi if I wanted to. It just felt like too much work, and I felt there was more to benefit to say, I tried Wasabi, it's too much work.
Okay, but I would counter with that we're still early adopters. Mm-hmm. It is very difficult to use Bitcoin privately. I completely agree right now. It will get easier. I think Lightning, by default, is going to be an insane privacy improvement, solely because on-chain it leaks so much privacy. I mean, people don't realize like the errors you make today on-chain are going to be there forever. If we're right about Bitcoin and Bitcoin lasts like a long fucking time, all those mistakes can be used against you in the future.
So 99% of people have made those mistakes already.
Yeah, okay. Including me. Okay. I've made those mistakes, and this is why I take them so seriously, because I made those mistakes, and just like you said about Bitcoin Cash and Coinbase, like I don't want other people to repeat those mistakes, and I'm more educated on it because I have made those mistakes. But my point is, it is going to become way easier. And if it doesn't become way easier, then we're fucked. But I think it will become way easier. Things like Samurai is going to... I mean, iPhone users will never be able to use Samurai, it seems apparent. But, for instance, Samurai is going to have a mobile mixing option, right? Okay. So, like, you're just using the Samurai wallet like you normally would use a Bitcoin wallet on your phone.
Not me, because I've got an iPhone.
Right, but any person, and then any person that has an Android.
Yeah.
And then you just press the mix button and it mixes. But here's the thing. Samurai is going to make a bunch of money doing that. So someone's going to make it on iPhone, right? It will happen. Are you still leaking some privacy if you're not running your node? Yes. Are you still leaking some privacy because you're running it on an iPhone or a Google phone that might be phoning home some things? Yes. So the issue with privacy is that there's so many different layers to it. There's a lot of nuance to it. It's like, who are you trying to hide from? If you're trying to hide from, like, for instance, the U.S. government, it's always going to be really fucking difficult because they have a lot of money behind it. They have all these major corporations that have to bend the knee to them. It's going to be very difficult. If you look at something like the internet, using the internet privately has been historically very, very difficult, right? Nowadays, the Tor browser is a relatively easy tool to use. If you use it on Windows computer, like, Microsoft's probably spying on you. But you install it, it connects to Tor. Easy peasy. You don't have to have any technical knowledge. You're just installing a fucking program. Like, should you verify that program? Yes. No one's going to verify it. Okay, fine. There's nuance there. There's a level. The Brave browser, fucking hate it. I hate that has the BAT token. You don't need to use the BAT token. The Brave browser, if you install it, you open a new tab, there's a button that says new private window with Tor. Yeah. It routes through Tor. That is very easy to use, right? So there's a balancing act.
Makes it a bit slower.
Well, Tor is slow as fuck, which is why it's important that node usage is low bandwidth, right? Because Tor is slow. And because there's this trade-off. There's always going to be a trade-off between privacy and convenience. So you just have to, and it even goes down all the way to the core, if you pay with a credit card or if you pay with cash. Most of my peers, they pay with credit card. They pay me with Venmo, right? These are all centralized systems. They're super easy to use. They get to bill me just instantly on Venmo instead of me paying them cash next time I see them in 2 weeks. It'll always be more difficult to use the private option. We just have to accept that. The key is to give users as many options as possible so that they can sit in that trade-off scale and pick which option they want, right? And the fact that they have the option to choose is wholeheartedly better than the current situation that we exist in.
Okay, so let's go back a step. What is the goal of Bitcoin then? Like, is it to offer this best form of private money, and therefore people need to be running a node, they need to understand Tor, they need to understand all the privacy trade-offs, which browser to use, which operating system. Like, all the things you've explained have basically said it's for the 1% of people like you who can be bothered to go through it all. The 99% aren't going to do it. Okay, that's what I think. Therefore, should we push the virtue of Bitcoin as a way of taking away money from state and then not worry too much about all these things you've talked about and actually just get as many people using Bitcoin as possible so we demonetize the state? Is that a better goal?
We do both.
We do both, okay. And then we have that like 1 or 0.1% of people like you who do everything.
No, you have a key. The key is options, right? So like someone could be running their own node and running Zap and doing it all self-sovereign and as private as possible and coin joining their UTXOs before they open channels. And then someone can be using Dropit. It's super user-friendly, and where it's not as private, but it's super user-friendly and you're not verifying the coin supply, but you can still transact with the people who are using the private option, right? And giving users that option is key because they're able to graduate up as they want to at will. Right at the end of the day, what we're building here is the option to do what you want, and the key is that Bitcoin doesn't rely on the overwhelming majority of users of doing the most secure option for it to succeed. I mean, with something like CoinJoin, like we do need liquidity, we need as many people to use it as possible. But like when you compare it to something like a proof of stake system that Ethereum is proposing, or something like Tezos already has in action. You're comparing it to a system that their incentives are set up where the majority of people are going to stake on exchanges. They're going to do all this shit that convenience comes first. And because of that, it makes the whole system insecure for everybody. But as a full node user, like I'm verifying my own supply. Whatever the fuck you decide to do doesn't really matter to me that much. Like if at the end of the day, what I really want is as many people to coin join as possible, to run their own nodes as possible. But it's not a direct effect to me, and it's not a direct effect to the Bitcoin protocol as a whole, right? The whole network that doesn't rely on you handling it as secure as possible.
But do you appreciate where I'm coming from? Can you see my angle here?
I think I appreciate it more than most.
Yeah.
Who say, It's my way or the highway. You got to do it all, or you're not a Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. Right?
Yeah, they're the ones who block me or hate me and go fuck you, Pete. Blah blah blah. But I think I'm trying to represent the reality.
But it's steps, right? Like so, like I take my friends like before I destroyed my OPSEC and I became a public Bitcoiner. Like I was doing all of this in private, and now I do it in public. Like I help people through DMs and whatnot. But it's a graduating step. Like first you get them to get off of Coinbase. Maybe they move it to a ledger. Why do they move it to a ledger even though it's closed source? It's closed source. You shouldn't use it. It's because it's got an app on the phone and it's just super easy to use, you know? And then you get them to a ledger. At least Coinbase can't steal their funds, right? Like back up your seed words. Okay, you're backing up your seed words, you know? Then maybe we get them over to a cold card and then a full node, right? And then they move over to a full node. You get them to a full node. Then you try and get them to do some coin joins, you know? And if they stop anywhere along the line, that is fucking fine. It doesn't matter. Like at least they're not on Coinbase.
I think,
you know.
Yeah, well,
like,
I think we can agree there.
You just gotta take what you can get, and you try your best. And the beauty of the system is that it doesn't rely on. The beauty of the system is that a indignant minority can stop it from changing, and that is fucking key.
Uh-huh.
So as long as that indignant minority can stop it from changing, which is not the case in something like ETH or the majority of the other coins, you can prevent any kind of malicious attacks on the network as a whole just because you have this indignant minority.
Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about on my list, and then we can talk about closing up, is I want to talk about Lightning. I think the advances in Lightning have been brilliant this year. The UX has got better. It's really cool. I'm, on a personal level, still struggling to find the use case.
But the use case is to spend Bitcoin.
Yeah, I know. I understand it is. But when?
Well, so I actually find this comment frustrating because the same people that are promoting Lightning, including myself, got berated for years about not supporting, easy payments on Bitcoin. Uh-huh. So here we have easy payments on Bitcoin that doesn't sacrifice censorship resistance. And then people have the nerve to tell us, well, why did we build this? So we built this for the future. Right?
Yeah, okay.
You built it for the future when people actually spend Bitcoin. And the thing is...
That's a fair point. I'll tell you why. I had this conversation with Jack today, Jack Mallers, and I actually said the same. I said, Lightning is there for the future when maybe we have hyper-Bitcoinization or something where Bitcoin is so big that people just want to start spending it and it already exists. But the use case right now, it doesn't really exist.
Every time Bitcoin pumps, people want to spend Bitcoin. It's the only time... The thing is, why would I spend Bitcoin if I could spend my fiat? And I just listened to our podcast a year ago. I said the same exact thing last year. Why would I spend if I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, which I am? So every week I'm putting fiat into Bitcoin. Why would I spend my Bitcoin to buy coffee? Which is the classic example. Why would I spend my Bitcoin to buy coffee if I'm already converting my fiat into Bitcoin because I want to hodl my Bitcoin because I think it's going to go up in value? I might as well spend my fiat.
Of course.
They already made it easy.
Get rid of your transaction fee.
Yeah, and they made it easy for us. It's low cost. It's quick. It's convenient. If I pay cash, it's extremely private still because we don't have cash banned here yet, which it will be banned in the future. So I think... You'll have multiple reasons for Bitcoin being spent. You'll have people who the majority of their net worth is in Bitcoin, whether that's their early investors or they get paid their salary in Bitcoin and they have to convert into fiat, as like we said with Whale Panda. You'll have, I think, merchants with BTC Pay will basically give a discount for Bitcoin purchases, because they want KYC free Bitcoin, right? So if I'm a merchant, if I have a convenience store and I want 2 stack sats, why would I go to Coinbase and KYC myself if I can say your milk is 5% off, right? If you pay with Bitcoin.
What stops them having to KYC the income in Bitcoin to accept the transaction?
I'm not a lawyer, they should pay all their taxes and whatnot, right? But they're not KYCing the people that pay them cash, right? So they're not reporting all of their income as it is. Yeah, this is just the reality of the situation.
But it's coming through on Visa, and if the US government wants to turn around and say who bought this, who bought that,
no. If it comes in on Visa, they're automatically KYC'd already because it came in through Visa. But if they pay with cash, That's not all getting reported right
yeah,
now,
but
as
the
is.
government's not worried about cash. Let's be honest, they're not worried
No,
about
they
cash.
are worried about cash.
But not like
they
this.
are. They're banning cash. That's one of the reasons. The removal of cash from our society is one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is that natural successor to cash. Because if they need to get rid of cash to institute negative interest rate policies, and they need to get rid of cash to try and stop tax evasion. These are the two reasons they're going to get rid of cash. They want to control the supply. They want to be able to know exactly what your transactions are. They want to track every single transaction. And in the developed world, this is more looking like a convenience play. So people are self-selecting out of cash to the point where if you even in America today, you make a large purchase with cash, people look at you suspicious.
I know, but
right?
you've kind of avoided the question.
No, my point is that the shop owners right now, if you go to a New York City convenience store, they're getting the majority of their money in cash, and they are not reporting it. Okay? If they get their money in Bitcoin through BTC Pay, they're not going to report it as well.
But that's legacy. What I'm saying is if a large number of retailers start using BTC Pay to get paid, there's every chance the US government's going to turn around and go, well, hold on a second.
Okay, but it's harder to enforce, is my point, right?
But it's not.
It's harder to enforce.
How? You just turn around and say...
You have to go convenience store to convenience store to enforce that.
You just make it a regulation. You just you make a regulation that says if you're accepting Bitcoin payments via BTC Pay, you have to KYC the purchase. Yeah. So that's...
But that regulation could, like, with cash, they try and do that with cash too. With cash, the law is on the books. The law on the books with cash is that if you receive a cash payment, you have to report that cash payment. It's
a slight difference.
They don't, though.
But you go into a store, and you go and buy some chewing gum with cash. They're not going to turn around and say, "Give me your name and passport and your details for that." But
why aren't they reporting it to the tax authorities? Why aren't they doing that? They're not doing it because they don't think they're going to get caught, and the enforcement is difficult. The enforcement has to be on a store by store level.
But all BTC Pay purchases pretty much will be online. It'll be an online purchase, right?
Sure.
So if it's an online purchase, unless it's a digital service, if it's a physical purchase, something that's got to get delivered to you, it's name and address. It's going to be very easy.
No. I'm talking about convenience stores here. I'm talking about you buy your milk.
Right, you're talking about you buy your BTC
milk.
Pay.
Yeah, you buy your milk. There's no reason that I think that retailer that you're buying the milk from will give you a discount for KYC for your Bitcoin. And then I think the third reason is because as the Bitcoin price goes up, it will normalize and then people will become more likely to spend it. So those are my three reasons.
I think you're wrong though.
The whole point is that 2013 was the year, 2013, 2014 were the years where everyone said we need to have retailers accept Bitcoin. But what they were really doing was they were doing the BitPay bullshit, where they were convincing AT&T to accept BitPay. BitPay was paying for the full implementation. They were just converting everything into US dollars. So as far as AT&T was concerned, nothing changed with their processes because they were just getting dollars, right? They weren't getting Bitcoin. The next step is merchants who demand Bitcoin, who want Bitcoin. They want to get that Bitcoin. They want to get it without the KYC attachments. They want to get it without the Coinbase fees. And when I say Coinbase fees, which is a horrible name because there's a Coinbase transaction in every Bitcoin transaction, I mean the actual exchange Coinbase. It's a merchant processor, right? They don't want to pay those fees. They don't want the KYC. They will offer a discount to hodl the Bitcoin, and they will hodl it. And I think Bitcoiners will be more likely to pay at retailers, at merchants that are hodling the Bitcoin and that are offering them a discount for it. And I think the merchants have an incentive to do it because they want to stack sats and they want to do it in the most private way they can possibly do it, and that's by selling you milk.
I think you're wrong.
Okay.
And I most of the time I think you're right.
And
most of the time I'm arguing, I'm like, I'm going to fucking lose this argument. But I think you're wrong. I think most of these businesses, they're not going to want to stack sats. They're going to want to sell the milk, and they're going to want to pay their bills and then pay their staff. I think that's what they're going to want to do. They're just going to want to run their business. Okay, I can stack sats with my business, but it doesn't, if I don't convert a certain amount to the pound, I can't pay my engineer, I can't pay my costs.
For now.
I just think the majority need to run their business. But I think you're wrong in thinking they can get away without KYC because the starting point for Bitcoin is suspicion. The starting point is BTC Pay might be great, But at the point where people start accepting significant amounts, it's very easy for the government to create a regulation that says if you're accepting Bitcoin, you have to KYC that purchase. And it's not the same as accepting cash, because the cash has a history of just being the base way that people transact.
But how does the government know that convenience store is accepting Bitcoin?
Well, firstly, they don't have to. They can just create the regulation.
Correct. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
This is why I advocate running a full node and coin joining.
And it's very easy.
This is exactly why I do this.
But it's very easy for them to say, we can audit your accounts. We want to know the money that's coming in, coming out, and how it's coming out. All I'm saying is like BTC Pay isn't the solution to getting rid of KYC. The government can just create regulation, and they just say, if you flout it, we catch you.
But
you can
the
go to
point
prison.
is, of course, they can create regulation. They've already created the regulation. Our favorite board member at Ripple, was one of the Ben Lawsky was one of the first guys to create it in New York. Of course, they can create the regulation, but the exchanges and the payment processors are the number one targets. BitPay, they bent the knee right away. They have a maximum amount you can send. They take their fee. They KYC their users. Where we have good actors. The OpenNode guys are fucking fantastic. They had to bend the knee. They had no choice. BTC Pay is an open source project.
BTC Pay isn't the problem. It's the people
But that's what
accepting.
I'm saying. But my point is that they are going to have to go convenience store by convenience store around the world, and they're going to have to enforce it undercover. Basically, they're going to have to basically go undercover. They're going to have to make payments, Bitcoin payments, and if that Bitcoin payment doesn't get reported, then they're going to hit the guy. That's the only way they can enforce it, and that's an expensive enforcement method. That is way different. That's way different than sending BitPay a fucking letter that says, if you don't do KYC, we are going to throw your ass in jail. It's a whole different.
I don't think that's the
model.
solution. If I'm working for the US government, I'm not defending them. I'm just saying if they want to regulate it, they can turn around and write to every retailer and say, if you're accepting Bitcoin via BTC Pay and you're not KYCing every purchase, and we find you, it's 20 years in jail.
Sure.
And then no one's going to fucking do it because they're
Some
like,
people
I'm
will
not.
still do it.
What? They're going to risk 20 years in jail to get paid in Bitcoin? Come on. They're not going to do that.
If your argument is that there will be authoritarian laws in place to try and reduce Bitcoin usage, I 100% agree with you.
Okay.
But let's take a step back here. Let's say you're in Argentina. Okay. This government does not have a grasp of their situation. I was just listening to your podcast. 30% of people pay taxes. Okay. They have a major issue with tax payment. So instead they add a VAT tax for the sales. So what did they say? It was 22% or something insane for the VAT tax, which is a regressive tax.
We have 20% in the UK.
Okay, we don't have that here because we still live in a relatively free country.
Well, no, but you still have state and federal. We only have the equivalent of federal.
I was just feeling nationalistic, but you're right. The majority of people don't pay their taxes down there, okay?
Uh-huh.
And they have this regressive tax that's 22%. So every payment that they get through that's Bitcoin on BTC Pay, they save that 22% on both sides.
Agreed, yeah.
Okay. And they get KYC free Bitcoin. So there's a major incentive there to try. And if you're telling me that the Argentinian government, who can't even get 70% of their citizens to pay taxes right now, is going to be able to go to every convenience store and scare the shit out of them into complying, then I think that's an unrealistic situation. And I think it's at its core, Bitcoin's a defensive technology. It makes it so it's easier to defend than to attack. So what happens is it gets really expensive to attack it. So something like BTC Pay, you have a situation here where if merchants start catching on and they're trying to stack sats, at a discount, and also more importantly, without KYC, they will do it.
I don't disagree with you that you've given a good example of Argentina. I also stand by the fact in the US they could very easily scare retailers not into doing it. So what I'm saying is BTC Pay doesn't offer it isn't a KYC free solution if the government chooses to make it not. They can scare people.
It's a huge improvement over the alternative where you just send BitPay or Coinbase a letter.
Yeah, that's an improvement.
It's a huge improvement.
Until the government
like everything else, there's a ton of nuance. But it's a huge improvement, and it comes down to every single convenience store, every single retailer. That's what it comes down to. And I I struggle to see how they can enforce it. And I think that the U.S. government specifically, and I said this last year, which one of the most bullish things that I thought of last year was, and that has actually come to fruition, is that I think that my biggest fear in the years prior was that the U.S. government was going to simply just say Bitcoin, if you held Bitcoin yourself, it's illegal. And if, basically what they start with is they say you disclose your Bitcoin holdings, and then they try and catch you in the lie, right? So they say, how much Bitcoin do you own? And if you don't tell us how much Bitcoin you own, you automatically go to jail, right? And then once they get that number, they try and catch you in the lie of how much Bitcoin you actually own. And then if they catch you, they throw you in jail. And basically what that does is they effectively ban self-custody. They ban you from withdrawing from an exchange into your own wallet. And then, so they still keep it, it's still technically legal to get exposure to Bitcoin, but to actually really use and own Bitcoin, that's illegal. If you asked me 3 years ago if that was a possibility, I would have said absolutely, without a doubt, 60, 70, 80%. Okay? Now I'm in a position where I'm considering that might never happen. Okay? And the reason that's the case is because we've had this chaos with Trump, basically. And the longer that it goes without them doing this, you have rich people that are getting bags of Bitcoin. And the dirty little secret of America and the dirty little secret of all these governments is that the rich people control what happens. So if the rich people have an incentive to make sure the system continues, it becomes way less likely that we have those kind of authoritarian-esque rules in place to dissuade private money usage, right? So I think that we are slowly creeping to the point where it'll be less like, I think it's a full-on self-custody ban in America is very unlikely right now, and I think that's bullish as fuck. And if America doesn't go, it becomes like a game among all the countries, right? Where it's if one big country doesn't go, full on Bitcoin ban, then Bitcoin keeps on going, and their people get fucked. Only their citizens get fucked. So like the U.S. government bans Bitcoin, they're the major government of the world. Like if they go after it hard, like that could be really bad for Bitcoiners around the world. But it'll be especially bad for U.S. Bitcoiners. But if like Luxembourg goes after Bitcoiners, like no one fucking gives a shit, right? So like you have to, and if America goes after Bitcoiners, but Russia sits back and China sits back, then Bitcoin's fine, right? So you have this.
There's an incentive
for Mexican standoff.
Yeah, there's an incentive for certain countries to be more liberal.
Yes.
With regards to Bitcoin, but I still don't think changes anything. The point being is that you can regulate a requirement for KYC with BTC Pay Bitcoin. You can regulate that.
I mean, you could fuck BTC Pay. You could just say that if anyone owns Bitcoin, they have to tell us exactly how much Bitcoin they own and what addresses they own.
And that could potentially
you get a couple people. And we saw this with the torrent wars.
Yeah.
You get a couple people. Some 16-year-old girl like lives with her mom. You get her on torrenting. And you hit her with like a $40 million lawsuit or something.
And everyone shits themselves.
Yeah, and then 80% comply. Yeah. Absolutely, without a doubt. And that's why it's super important, while CoinJoin is still legal, to do as many CoinJoins as possible, right? This is exactly been my strategy in terms of education, right? Is like trying to get as many people, because the thing is, once you're in Bitcoin, if you can obtain private Bitcoin usage, like there's a circular economy that could be there. The issue is those on-ramps and the off-ramps. It's getting in. When I was first starting out with Bitcoin, one of the reasons why I became such a hardcore hodler was because it didn't matter if I called a local top. I was scared that if I sold, America was going to ban Bitcoin, and I wasn't going to be able to get back in, right? And I was just going to watch it pump anyway, because I think it would pump anyway.
By the way, that show with Janine.
And everyone else would go up.
Remember that show with Janine?
Yeah, you listen to that one?
I'm a massive fan of hers.
She's great.
She's fucking great. And her whole approach to acquiring Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin without any tracking, like, blew my mind. She blew my mind on
But
a
she
couple of
doesn't
things.
carry a smartphone,
Yeah. Well, the other thing that
which I respect, but that's difficult.
she also blew my mind on another thing. I actually wrote to her and said, because I'm like, UX, UX, UX. And she made that point. She said, the problem is UX has made it too easy to fuck up now. Like, when it was hard, it was only the techies and the nerds who were like command lining Bitcoin and, you know, protecting themselves. Like,
Yeah.
now it's made it easy for anyone to sign up to Coinbase and fuck up. That was a really great
Well, that's
show.
where we disagree, because I think that even if we have people fucking up, the system as a whole is fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
No, I agree with that. But I just that
And I
show blew my
also,
mind.
I sit in the middle of the anti KYC people and the suits of Bitcoin, right? Like the people that are like, let's compliance everything. I think a lot of the people I follow call them compliance bros, right? Like the people that are pro KYC, try and make it Bitcoin, as I'm doing quotes, air quotes, like legitimate as possible. I sit in the middle because I think, at least in my situation, if I didn't use something like Coinbase, which I unfortunately used, well, I'm not even going to say unfortunately, I used in the beginning, I would not have been able to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I did. Right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And if you go through these KYC free options, you're never going to be able to get a large volume into Bitcoin.
Nope.
It's a slow and steady approach, and you end up with less Bitcoin. So it's a balancing act, and you try and reclaim your privacy afterwards. Is like my two cents on the subject. But yeah, I 100% respect Janine. I think the majority of people will never. I like, look at me. I never do the steps she does. Right? Like I carry a smartphone, so shame on me. But
I've
I
just got
I try and limit that exposure as much as possible. But I do understand that reality.
I've just got the while I was away the last couple of days, I've just got the delivery note that my light phone's coming. Have you seen the light phone?
Yeah, I don't like that light phone.
I love that light phone.
My issue is like you don't have any of my encrypted messaging apps or anything. I mean, but you commented back. You're like, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah. So no, what it is, I tell you why I got it. It's just a bit of a detour, and people should check out Light Phone. But I went out to dinner once with my kids. We've got a thing in England called Nando's. It's like it's an institution. It's a chicken place, and I got out my phone to check something. And when I looked up, both my kids were on their phone. I was like, this is fucking terrible. We're out to dinner. We're all on our phone. So we've now banned phones when we go out. Whenever we go out as a family, phones stay at the house, right?
That's good.
But then I was like, I'm so addicted to this phone. I'm using it all the time, but I need a phone for certain times. So like I looked up for like a dumb phone. I found this one and I was like, oh, what? So you can text, you can call, you can set an alarm. I think you can you order a taxi?
You can't Uber.
You can't Uber.
There's no apps.
Well, in Bedford, you don't use Uber anyway, so it's perfect. But what I'm saying is, like, it's the absolute basics that what I need. So the idea being is the phone I'll have for the weekend. That's going to be my starting point. On a Friday night, I'm going to switch phones, and therefore I'm not distracted. Like I'm like with my family, being dad, right?
Right.
And that's the starting point with that. And I can't wait to get it.
I think that's fair. I think you also made the other argument that you, especially with the family, your kids should be able to contact you even if you're off the grid. So
exactly.
Like, you can like go semi off the grid, but they can still call you.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. But like I don't use phone calls really. So like
Nobody
that
does.
feature is like kind of not.
Who uses
worth
a
it for
phone as
me.
a phone?
So there's another project, I forget the name of it, which I thought was kind of interesting, that is a dumb phone, but it gives you 4G hotspot. So you can theoretically, if you need to, you can like connect an iPad or a computer to it, and then you have full Wi-Fi, and you can do all the other apps and stuff if you need, which I think is like a nice kind of balancing. But what I really want is I feel that position, but text messaging is like you're literally just sending a postcard.
Yeah,
through
I
the
know
internet.
that.
It's like the least private thing you can fucking do.
Yeah, but I only text my
trying.
kids.
But that's fair. But I've been trying. But the thing is, if you text your kids from iPhone to iPhone, it's through iMessage, and at least it has some basic encryption there,
Yeah.
right? So there's a difference, and trying to get people away from text message has been like kind of a mission for me, right? Because not only are these text messages postcards where they're able to read everything, but they're stored infinitely. In America, I think it's a data center in Nevada or something, where they just gobble up all these text messages, and it's not just Americans, which is arguably the most fucked up part as an American because, we have a constitution and Bill of Rights and shit. But they're gobbling up the text messages of everyone worldwide. They're saving them in databases because text is super easy to save in database. And at will, if you ever do anything wrong, they can just search through that database and pick out that one thing you said that was wrong and throw you in jail for it. And then that's the major issue. This is what Snowden was fighting for.
Uh-huh.
The idea is, it's the same exact idea with Bitcoin, is that you need defensive technologies. You need to make it so, like, yes, you can intercept signal messages. Definitely if you compromise their phone. We don't know if there's a signal backdoor. There probably isn't, I would hope, but there might be. But at least it's a more difficult approach for them. They can't just gobble up this information willy-nilly with no permission and do a mass surveillance type of situation. If they have to do I'm the first person that says, like, if the U.S. government or the Chinese government or even the Russian government probably, but definitely the U.S. and Chinese, if they want your shit, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Like, if they decide, like, Peter McCormick is my target, they're going to get it. But they shouldn't be able to get all 8 billion people all at once. And text messages allow that.
Yeah, of course.
Unencrypted phone calls allow that. So in that regard, it's a step back to me. Like, give me a Signal phone.
Yeah, but this is
give me a phone that any person who has Signal installed on their iPhone or something can call my phone, and it's just everything goes through Signal or something. Like give me that. Like, I'll take that.
But you're going from Matt Odell, ultimate privacy, scared the fuck of everyone, blah blah blah. I'm thinking dad on a weekend with my kids. If I could get the ultimate phone, it would be that phone, text, alarm, Uber, Spotify, Signal. That's what I need. And if you give me all of that, I'm covered without all the distractions of Twitter, Facebook, beep this, beep that, check this, check that. Just it's all gone.
Right.
And then you're becoming present in the situations you need to be present in.
Right. I mean, I think I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that, like, you came at it from, like, the Janine angle, and
No. I
It's a
was
step
just saying, no,
back.
you said she hasn't got a smartphone. I was just saying, it just reminded me that thing was coming.
Okay. Yeah. As far as, like, smartphones being an addiction, yeah, absolutely, step up improvement. I don't disagree. But from a privacy perspective, it might actually be a step back. That's all I'm saying.
Perhaps. By the way, we've now set a What Bitcoin Did record. This is now officially the longest show I've made.
There you go.
2 hours, 30 minutes.
We win. Welcome 2020.
Bam.
Fist
All right.
bump.
Where do you want to finish out on, man? I mean, we could go on for hours, but I've got a flight to get in the morning.
Yeah, I always enjoy shooting the shit with you. I enjoy listening to your podcast.
Because we're so different. We come such a different angle.
Um,
we're both ends of the spectrum.
No, I think I'm turning you into the Bitcoin guy I want to turn you into, and
Yeah, maybe. All right, let me ask you a couple of things. So you've had a great year. You and Marty have had a great year. You personally as well, and you're probably you're one of my favorite dudes. But in terms of the shows you've done, like, what are your favorite ones?
Well, I don't like this question.
Yeah, I know, but I get
love
asked
all
this
my
every
shows.
fucking time, and I love all my shows, and I love both my children. But come on, is there anything that stood out for you? I can answer for me, but you.
I mean, I would say the three shows that if you're going to listen to Tales from the Crypt and you want to get, like, a real basis, is, like, you should listen to my original podcast with Marty, where I was just the guest before I joined.
I don't think I've listened to that.
It's the original.
I'm going to go back.
We got wrecked. It's a very good podcast episode, I think, but I'm a little biased. And then we had bangers with Arbed Out and American Hodl, which I told you earlier before, but you got to listen to both of those.
All right.
They were both longer than this episode, and they were whiskey fueled, so they were very good episodes, especially the Arbed Out episode. I think that was my favorite recording. I mean, we tried for like a year and a half to get him on the podcast.
Okay.
And we had like amazing conversations with him before that I was just like, we're like an hour and a half into the conversation. I was like, dude, this would have been amazing if we recorded it.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Because he's a pre-Bitcoin OG, like he's just been in the space for a long fucking time.
We did an hour before we started recording, though.
Yeah, exactly.
this
That would have been a great episode.
This could have been 3.5 hours. Yeah, but then we would have... I'm not even going to let people know what it was, but we would have shone light on something I don't want to give any attention to.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So I'm going to put my 3 out then, from my side.
Yeah, put your 3 out. Absolutely, you should, after putting me on the spot.
3 from this year, I would say the Junseth and DeRose show. The reason being, it's just they hadn't talked ever since they fell out.
Right.
And we got all in a room, and we did it,
and it was definitely tense when we got together. And I'd never really watched their show, so I watched a few in prep, and I saw that thing where they took their shirts off. I was like, let's take our shirts off. And with 3 of us sat in this hotel room in Florida with our shirts off and did 3 hours. And that was 2.5 hours. That was great.
Yeah, if it was 3 hours, then it wasn't. We're not recording the longest
No,
episode right now.
well, I know this is the longest, so maybe it's 2.5. Maybe in my head it said 3 hours. I know my previous longest one was 2 hours 27, so we passed it.
There you go.
But we were in a room for 3 hours together. The one I did with the Mallers family, I just
that
loved.
was my favorite episode.
Yeah, I loved it.
And I was like kind of bummed. I think the third one should be the most recent one you've done with them. That hasn't been released yet. That I haven't listened to.
Well, it's not with the. So when I say the Mallers, like Jack's dad Bill was there, and Bitcoin Mom was there.
Was Bill not there this time?
No, Bill was there this time, and he barely spoke. He spoke for a couple of minutes, and it's going to come out, and we covered the story that I didn't really know. I think I'd heard about Jack basically nearly dying. It's very emotional.
Yeah.
It's really emotional. It's the most emotional show I've done. But in the 3 for this year, I wouldn't put that in there. God, what third one? There's so many.
How about Lynn a second time?
No, because the first one was the best, and that
The
was
first
last
one was great.
Yeah,
Everyone
that was
should
last
listen
year.
to that one.
If
I didn't give this year, by the way. They weren't this year.
What's that?
I think Arbdad and American Hodl were this year, but not mine.
Ah, okay. I mean, if I went all time, then I would do the first Limb one because
Yeah, that was
a
a good
very
one.
special one, and yeah, there were some others. I really enjoyed the one I did with Bellagio, and I know not every Bitcoiner loves him, but
That was a good one.
that first one with him. But I think the other
Well,
one.
Balaji's unleashed now that he's out of Coinbase.
I know. It would be very easy to throw Szabo in there because it happened, but I don't think that. I think it was good, but it wasn't.
I like the shout out to me. That was a good one.
Wow, you helped me prep.
It was a good part.
Do you know what? The other one I put in there is that first Polstra one, just because it was so fucked up.
Polstra's great.
It didn't happen. There's, like you say, it's sort of your children. All right, man. 2020, what's going to happen, Matt? What's going to happen?
Number go up.
Do you think the number at the end of 2020 will be bigger than the start?
I think BTC Pay will prove you wrong.
Prove what? Prove me wrong in terms of what?
I think BTC Pay will prove everyone that it's the most important project in Bitcoin.
No, I didn't. I'm not saying it's not.
Okay.
My only point in it is that if you want to regulate it, you can. It's not KYC free if you want to enforce KYC. That's my point on it. It's not saying it's not important. I'm just saying
It's
if you
KYC resistant. I'm not saying it's KYC proof. It's just KYC resistant. That's all.
Well, it isn't if in
It
terms
is.
of regulation.
It is in terms of you have to go to every single retailer that accepts BTC
You don't. You have
Pay.
to scare people into not doing it, and
Yeah,
you can
it's
scare
resistant.
people.
It's resistant.
I'm definitely right on this one.
Okay.
I think basically I scored our thing we talked about here, and,
Yeah, so BTC Pay.
I won 3-1, by the way.
I think the halving isn't priced in.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoiners aren't priced in, so I think that people are underestimating them. I think the privacy wars are about to start, and I'm really excited for that because that's what I've been basically building up everything to. I told Marty right in the beginning that the only reason I'm doxing myself is because I think that I can help usher in better Bitcoin privacy for everyone, and that's what I want to see.
Privacy month and what Bitcoin did.
And when I say that, I'm not threatening your verifiable cap. I am not doing that at all. I do not think that we need Mimblewimble on the base layer or anything like that. I think that we can have both to agree, and it will be good enough. Let's get it easy enough. So I think that will be key. I think Lightning will continue to grow. It's growing at a breakneck pace. People continue to underestimate it. It's already extremely easy to use if you use something like Breeze or Phoenix Wallet, non-custodial. If you use custodial wallet, it's even easier to use if you use something like Dropbit. So I think Lightning will continue to grow. I'm really bullish on these nodes in a box. I'm waiting patiently for my new Nodl. I'm going to get the first Nodl Samurai edition, so I'm super excited for that. I'm bullish on Samurai's mobile mixing. I'm bullish on Wasabi continuing to iterate. Both of those will help with privacy. Yeah, I think that Bitcoin will continue to march on. The haters will continue to say that it's either trending to zero or that we were lucky sons of bitches. And
Zero's off the radar for me.
but not for the no coiners. And so they will say that every time we enter a bear trend. Yeah, and I think the future is bright. I think that
For Bitcoin.
for Bitcoin, for all of us because of Bitcoin, and Yeah, I'm always bullish, but I've never been as bullish as I am today. And I'm just super grateful that I get to be a part of all of this along with you. And I've met so many good friends, new friends over this last year, and that alone is awesome. But I think that we stand in a situation here where we could actually make a major difference in the trajectory of the world. And I would just like to cautiously remind everyone that if you're worried about Bitcoin becoming the panopticon, you can do something about it. And the end result without Bitcoin is a panopticon, regardless. We already live in that panopticon. So let's move to a more private future. Let's move to a future where people can actually control their wealth, and authoritarian governments can't just take it away from you at will, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a better future for our kids. And if people can just take your money at will and take your wealth at will, that everything you've built up all these years, your time, then that's the ultimate power. So if we can neuter that, if we can make it less effective, their power, that would be fucking huge.
That's a beautiful ending, man.
There you go. That's the whiskey talking.
All right, well, listen, look, just from my side, I do consider you a friend, just not like somebody I know in the industry now. I really appreciate you. There's been many times over the last year I've reached out to you on Telegram, said, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, and you've always been straight with me, given me some good advice. You've definitely changed the trajectory of the show I make and what I do. Love you, brother. Appreciate everything. I hope you have massive success next year, and I'm sure we'll be speaking again.
Absolutely. I love you, dude.
All right,
Stay
man.
humble, stack sats.
Alrighty, so what did you think of that? How was that for a final show? Bit of a monster, right? Matt smashes it as usual. He's one of my favorite people in Bitcoin and someone I talk to regularly in private. I'm always picking his brain, and I knew when I was coming around to the time of the year I wanted to do a final show. It had to be with Matt. I had to get him on again because, the guy, he's such a good thinker. He's so smart. I don't always agree with him. We don't agree on everything, but he's definitely a good person to chew the fat with. And 2019 has been a really crazy year. I mean, personally, so much crazy stuff's happened. I've been around the world about 5 times. I've traveled to 18 countries, all these flights and everything. But a crazy year for Bitcoin. The price bottomed at, 3,600, shot up to 14,000, sell in the 6 or 7 range. We've had exchanges go to the wall. So much crazy stuff's happened again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2020. Anyway, massive thanks to Matt for coming on the show, for being a friend, for always being there when I need him. Love that guy. You got any questions about the show, do reach out to me. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. I will try and get back to you. And you know what? If you want to support the show, if you've loved what I've done this year and you think, I want to help Pete, and you've never done it, go to my website. Go to whatbitcoindid.com, click on the support section. It's all on there. Everything you can do to help. How you leave a review. If you want to become a sponsor. Well, I've got hardly any sponsorships left already for 2020, which is utterly amazing, but it's all there. If you want to support the show, it's there. If you want to reach out to me, it's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Listen, I love every single one of you. Every one of you. I love you sponsors, listeners, trolls, every one of you. I hope you have a great end of the year, and I hope you all smash in 2020. If I can do anything to help, you know where I am. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. All right, take care. Bye-bye.